on time. Oh, crap! I forgot to say one more thing. I gotta email the guy. Sorry, guys.
Oh, yeah.
That'll actually be good, though. All right.
Turns finger to get you.
Okay, cool. All right. Hey, live viewers, none of you that are online yet, but people who will be watching this video later, because I have checked, and we do actually pick up a fair amount of viewers on our YouTube videos later on, so that's very exciting. We're really glad to be here to talk about Game of Thrones. As usual, I'm Caleb. And this week I'm drinking Arrogant Bastard. Really hoppy. It's very hoppy. So
It is good stuff.
it's good stuff. Austin went and stocked up on IPAs. So
We got tons of them.
Dole, have you ever heard of a beer being called hoppy?
Not in person.
Okay, because this is a really hoppy beer. It's got this. I don't know. Austin knows more about beer than I do, but it's got this. There's stuff in it that makes it very. It's not smooth. I'll tell you that.
It's,
much.
they're called hops. That's what makes it that way.
Well, I don't think I've ever had one of those yet. So
It's very floral.
It's it's pretty strong. I'll say that much. Anyway, so while we're talking about beer, so for any of our listeners, viewers out there who drink a lot of beer or know a lot about beer, go ahead and feel free to chime in and tell me what I'm missing out on. Hey, it's a good thing. It's a good thing we stalled because I forgot to start recording on the program. See, but we're not started yet. What's up, guys?
I tried to tell you to start.
Well,
earlier.
I was doing it with that, but we are now started. We're rolling with 5 seconds in. What's up, guys? See, strategy right there.
Yes,
We're not going to do this whole thing
that's
twice.
strategy. It's all a part of the plan.
All part of the plan. So we're gonna hop on and talk Game of Thrones.
Full finger
The
podcast.
question I want to bring up just for fun is, Stoll, did you catch that Guardians of the Galaxy trailer today?
I did not. I think I saw it, but I've been actually at work for longer than I thought it was going to be today.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
I actually haven't had a chance to pick it up. So
Cool. Be a chance. It's really funny. It looks cool. So Bradley Cooper is voicing a raccoon that is crazy and shoots rockets, and Vin Diesel is voicing a tree.
I've seen one of the trailers. I haven't seen, I guess, the one that went today or so.
Yeah, the one today you actually got to hear both of them talk though. The first one there was no talking from them.
Yeah, it was like they just showed them all go on the conveyor belt, and the guy was like, "This is so and so, and this is so and so." That's all it was.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, exactly. No Star
His
Lord.
acting chops here.
Yeah. You get to see Star Lord be big. And I gotta say, guys, my new goal for my new ideal body is Chris Pratt. He's pretty ripped. I gotta get there. That's the new goal.
You can do it. I believe in you.
I'm doing pretty good. My problem is I just need to go back to the gym. Because I spent an hour and a half today doing just a bunch of arms and push-ups and crap. Awesome. So I gotta get ripped. But okay, so. Oh shit.
And Caleb, I think you were beating on the table a little bit. Your mic picks it up real bad.
Yeah, it's my foot. My bad. We'll stop that. All right. So, guys, I think I was talking to Austin about this earlier, and Stoll, feel free to chime in. This episode has been called filler a little bit, and I want to point out that I think, I'm not saying I agree with that, but I was thinking, if we go by the logic, this episode is a bunch of filler, which I don't think it is at all. But if we go by this logic, I think pretty much most of Stannis' storyline for the last season and a half has been pretty filler-ish.
It has, though.
Yeah, I could see that. I'll just go ahead and throw it out there, but I know we're going to talk about it in a little bit. I don't think this is probably my favorite episode. Actually, I know it was my favorite episode so far. So
very cool.
Of the season or of the series?
This season.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to put these moments up against Blackwater or Red Wedding last year.
But I'll go ahead and say right now, I'm pretty sure I'm going to change my statement after next week's episode. So.
Oh dear God!
After next week, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be saying that's my favorite episode. So
I think every Game of Thrones fan is going to be saying that. This has a lot of hype. This fight has a lot of hype to live up to.
Oh yeah, it does.
It's the most anticipated, one of the most anticipated, if not the most anticipated moment from any of the books. Most readers.
I was trying to explain it to to Megan and Taryn last night because Drew understood and Rachel too, but Drew understood. I was like, this moment is bigger than the Red Wedding in the books, like everything, how it goes down and everything. And they're like, really? And I was like, yes, like it's just. And Drew's like trying to help me explain it, but yeah.
Okay, well let's put it in perspective here. Why is this huge? Well, first off, it's just epic. One, it's the Hound, the Mountain fighting the Viper, which is pretty cool. But two, Tyrion's life is in the hands of this fight.
Yeah.
If he dies, he's just dead. And I mean, like, I don't know. That seems like pretty big stakes to me. Because like, without the series, where does Tyrion? I mean, without Tyrion, where does the series go, really?
Right. Tyrion's easily one of the favorites of the of book readers and of show watchers. So
yeah,
exactly.
But Oberyn wouldn't be doing this if he didn't think he was going to win. I think he's pretty dang confident he's going to be fine.
I think you're right.
I think you're definitely right. I mean, obviously he's pretty sure he can take the guy. We'll talk a little bit more.
He's willingly deciding to go up against the like he's not. It's not even like he's forced into it. He's like, yeah, I'll fight him. Like
it's like it's like my dad. It's like my dad said. He used to put money down on games of pool that he played, and his argument always was, "Well, it's not gambling if I know I'm going to win." So
this is very true.
That's how Oberyn feels.
I mean, I think what the mountain, I think what Oberyn Martell is saying is, "Ain't no mountain high enough."
Wow.
I'm just saying, man. That's what he's saying. I can climb this mountain. Take that. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Cast Beyond the Wall. I'm your host, Caleb Masters, and we are presented by our partners at WeGotThisCovered.com. Joining me today, as always, my great co-host, all the way from Oklahoma City, sir.
Daniel Stoll.
And the lone wolf, who's riding the pack by himself, over in the next room over, sir.
Austin Lucari.
All right, and we are so excited to talk about this week's episode, Mockingbird, featuring yours truly's favorite character, Littlefinger. Yes, yes, yes. I love it so much. As per usual with our live broadcast, we'll be taking 2 Q&A breaks, one about midway through the show. So for those of you who are tuning in via YouTube, you can go ahead and there should be 2 options. You could either click on a link when the video pops up to submit a question that way, or you should be able to comment in the YouTube video. And if you guys have any questions, comment. If you think we've lost our marbles, if you have any violent objections, please comment. We'll talk about it. Because you know what? We like to talk to our listeners because we're cool like that. So, yeah, please go ahead and tune in, chime in that way, and we'll be taking a break midway through and at the end of the show. So thank you for that. Well, we typically have a guest host on every week, and unfortunately due to extenuating circumstances in Scotland and all sorts of crazy stuff, we're not having a guest host on yet. Although rumor has it someone might drop in at the end of the show. We'll see. But for the time being, it's just going to be rolling with 3 of us. It's a classic, guys.
Woohoo!
You know what they say about classics? Nothing beats a classic, okay? So, let's go ahead and... All right, well, guys, if we have someone join later, we might have to do some fun little interview questions. We'll see what happens. However, for the time being, let's go ahead and do our question of the week as we always do. And I'm trying to go with something a little different this week, guys. So we've had all these. Yeah.
Sorry. Be sure to plug the website and stuff. Thank you for that this time.
Oh, the.
We got this covered and.
Oh, okay. I mentioned it once, so I'll put it back up.
Oh, did you? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hey, they did tweet us out 4 minutes ago though, so we're good. Okay. Yeah. And I just want to say thank you so much to our partners at WeGotThisCovered.com. They are an excellent movie, gaming, and TV website. They just posted an X-Men Days of Future Past review today. So by the time you're listening to this via audio, it's a couple days old. Please check it out. These guys have some great insight. I've really enjoyed reading all the reviews. And being partners with them because they're a lot of fun. They're like us. We're like nerds. We love games. We love TV. We love talking about this stuff, and I think we've got some great partners there. So if you haven't, go ahead and check out their website. They do Game of Thrones recaps, and like I said, you've got the big premiere for X-Men Days of Future Past this weekend, and I think you're going to want to have to see what WeGotThisCovered.com has to say about this. But for now, let's go ahead and do what we always do at the beginning of the show, which is we're going to discuss a question. And this week I want to be a little different. We've had a lot of variations on the similar idea questions, but I'm doing something different. So, guys, this show is based on a book series called A Song of Ice and Fire, right?
Right.
So even though this is a show all about like the gray moral ambiguity of characters and sides and who's on what side, I do feel like ultimately the what direction the show is heading, we are going to break down to a really big effing battle, probably with two sides, one that tends to lean towards the ice and one that tends to lean towards the fire. So we got a big battle coming, I think, at the end of the show. I think we can look forward to that. So my question this week is, who's going to end up on what side? Go.
Well, there's a lot of really interesting fan theories out there as to how this ends up, but I'm going to forego all of those, and it's going to be the Greyjoys versus everything. The Greyjoys are going to kill the dragon, they're going to kill the White Walkers, they're going to kill the Lannisters, because they're the only one with the cojones to get it all done. Only ones.
Wow.
Austin, they're going to get their asses kicked so hard it's not even funny.
No, you can't even touch them. They're on an island. What are you going to do?
Dragons! They fly! They incinerate the boat and fly away!
I don't know about the dragons. Maybe the dragons like the Greyjoys too.
And what happens when the White Walkers show up? What happens when the White Walkers show up with their ice boats? What are they going to do then?
With their ice boats?
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't part of the plan, so we'll see.
The
White Walkers are not supposed to be able to swim.
You got to think about the ice boats, okay? The White Walkers we are now saying are
They're floating like one of those like environmental commercials where the panda's floating on that, not the panda, the polar bear's floating on that piece of ice. That's the White Walkers like floating in the middle of the ocean.
Put the spears in the air, like from Indiana Jones. And like,
they can't actually control where it's going. They're just like adrift.
Yes. Awesome. That's exactly right. You know what, Austin? I think that's freaking crazy, and I think your infatuation with the Greyjoys needs to stop.
Oh.
I know what you think every time freaking Greyjoy
I'll
gets
remind you of
mentioned.
that at the end of this episode when we're discussing a certain character.
Listen, man, I know what all I'm saying is every time the Greyjoys show up, Austin's anyway erections.
Which has only been once this year. It's a travesty.
Anyway,
yeah, but Daniel, what do you think?
Yeah, Daniel, go.
Okay, so here's what I actually think, and I honestly have not read very many theories, I guess you could say, out there. I've actually tried to stay away from the internet just because I'm afraid I'm going to accidentally run into a spoiler of some kind. So I actually don't know what some of the theories are out there, but my sort of idea is that I think Bran is going to play an extremely important role. I think that's where his story is sort of headed, and I think that Melisandre and her Lord of Light will sort of represent the fire side of things. And I think Bran will eventually have something to do with this other god that she references, and it will be Lord or God or whatever of ice. It'll be more of an icy, maybe darkness. She calls him darkness, but we don't really know much about him. And I think it'll be more of an icy thing, and I think it might come to something like that. If the dragons and Daenerys play a role, it will be on the fire side, and then the White Walkers will play the role on the ice side of things, and I think that'll be... I think Bran, my theory is that Bran will eventually be able to maybe even control the White Walkers in some form or fashion. There's nothing that suggests that's true. That's just what I think might happen. And then on the other side, we'll have Daenerys and her dragons, and maybe Melisandre with Lord of Light. I don't know how that's all going to play out, but I don't know. That's sort of my grand general, without getting into too much detail, theory.
Okay, that's cool. That's very cool. I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot, and you know, originally when I was reading these books and watching the show, I was thinking Jon was going to be on the icy side, right? But given some recent developments and just kind of like a lot of theories, I think he's going to end up on fire side. I think Stoll's right. I think Bran is definitely going to be a player on the side of ice, with the Great Other, whoever that may be, who is going to be opposing the Lord of Light, which is Melisandre's god. So I'm really interested to see how Daenerys and her dragons plays into this. I mean, your natural inclination is to say, "Ooh, she's going to be fighting for Melisandre the fire because dragons, fire."
Right.
But I just don't see them working together very well.
Yeah, me too. That's sort of why I said I don't know how that'll play out, because I don't see them being on the same side.
Right, exactly. Even though they're kind of connected. I don't know. I'll also say this too. Of course, your natural inclination is to say the dragons are fighting for the ice or the fire side, right? But what if Bran is working for this great other guy and he can warg into dragons? Just saying.
That's a good point.
I mean, it'd be pretty freaking sweet if Bran warred into a dragon. Otherwise, though, I feel like the players I'm really not sure about are going to be the King's Landing folk.
Right.
I think our fellows across the sea and at the wall.
Be casualties of the war, I think.
I think so too. I'm trying to figure out because I want Jaime to end up on a side somewhere, and I feel like if anything, he's probably going to end up with Daenerys or something. But
I think this is what's great about Game of Thrones is what's going to end up happening is we're going to have people on both sides that we want to win.
Yeah.
And we can't have both sides really win. So, because for example, there are going to be Daenerys fans on that side, but then if Bran's on the other side, there's people going to like Bran, and maybe you like both characters, and then how do you deal with that? And I think again that brings us back into one of the conversations.
We lost him.
We lost Stoll for a second there. Sorry.
Oh,
there you are.
Okay.
That was going to be one of the conversations I think you were going to say.
Okay. That's going to be one of the conversations I think we've had before, or touched on at least a little bit on the podcast before, where we see a very realistic evidence where maybe it's not good versus evil, it's just people versus people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you see good and evil on both sides of things, and it's that's going to be really hard for us. I know for me anyway, to pick a side because I'm going to want people on both sides to win. So I'm going to be like, this side I hope kills this people on the other side, but I hope they don't touch these people. You know what I mean? And
right.
But realistically, that can't happen. And I think that's a very realistic thing where there's good and evil on both sides, and it's just going to play out the way it plays out.
Yeah. So that's an excellent point. And I think I'll let you finish here in a second.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I think it's an excellent point. And I think if you go back to the show and look at the Battle of Blackwater, I think it's a great template for how I think that final battle is going to play out. Because Battle of Blackwater, we didn't like Stannis. We wanted him to die. We liked Davos a lot, though. We didn't want Thanos to fail. We hated Joffrey. We wanted Joffrey to get his head cut off in that battle so bad, but we didn't want to see Tyrion go. We didn't want to see Bronn go. So, it is that dynamic of having people you love on both sides who are going to be fighting each other, and you're kind of rooting for both of them and neither of them at the same time. It's a really interesting dynamic, I think, and I think you're totally right. This show is obviously not about good and evil, and I think it's definitely going to get... He's doing a great job at building up to a battle where we're going to see, honestly, maybe one of the more realistic portrayals of a battle from both sides that we've ever seen because you get the complexity of both sides and you're in love with both of them. Just like in a real war, there are people, no one's really a bad guy per se, I guess, but we're all just people fighting each other, and there are casualties, unfortunately.
Well, while we're here, and since we're discussing this anyway, and you can decide to cut this if you like, Caleb, we might as well discuss the really interesting fan theory that's out there. You and I have talked about this before, but I don't know if Daniel's ever heard it. It's pretty dang cool. So the idea is that Jon Snow is not Ned's bastard.
Oh, me and Stoll talked at length about this.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes, most definitely.
Oh, yeah. So then you know where this is going. That is actually the son of Rhaegar and Ned Stark's sister. What's her name? Lyanna. I wanted to say Linnea, but that's a friend of ours.
Okay.
So that basically what it comes down to is Jon Snow versus Daenerys, the two Targaryens fighting each other. One's ice, one's fire.
Yeah, that would make. And again, I would totally agree with that. I've kind of been thinking about it, and at one point that's kind of the line I thought it was going to come to because you've got Jon up in the ice and the snow, but then.
It's too obvious at this point. There's no way George R. R. Martin would actually follow through on it because he likes to screw with you.
And I don't think the show has touched on this. Stoll, tell me if I'm going off in spoiler territory. I'm not going to be specific, so it's not a spoiler. But the prophecy of the three-headed dragon that's in book 2. With the House of the Undying, we get a peek at that, right?
Yeah, that is in. Sorry, hold on. Yeah, that's in book 2. Sorry.
Okay. Oh no, you're good. You're fine.
Technical difficulties, but yeah, book 2 is where they reference the three-headed dragon. I don't know much about it yet. It's still kind of up in the air, but yeah, they do reference the three-headed dragon in book 2.
So without getting too specific, basically in the House of the Undying, Daenerys sees a lot of prophecies about what's going to come. I mean, in the show, like in the book too, the series, about what's going to happen, because she actually sees the red wedding. She sees a prince with a wolf's head, and a bunch of dead people at a feast, which is really funny because you don't really pick up on it. I don't know, it's weird. So she sees stuff like that, and one of the other things that she sees is, I believe it's like her brother Rhaegar or something along the line tells her that there will always be 3 heads of the dragon or something along those lines. So my theory is, going along with what Mr. Lucari said, is that Jon Snow is one, Daenerys is another, and the third one has yet to be discovered. Or it could be someone else we already know. Just a thought. But you have to believe.
Was it Aemon Targaryen up at the wall?
Aemon Targaryen at the wall. Well, he is a Targaryen, so that's very plausible. I know probably a little more than once you get to end of book 5, there's a few more revelations yet to be discovered that I'm not going to go into for obvious reasons. But I do tend to lean towards that. But you for that prediction to be considered legit, you have to buy into the whole thing that Jon Snow is a Targaryen, and I really do wholeheartedly buy into that. I would be surprised. I'd be more surprised if he wasn't at this point.
Yeah, I definitely buy into that theory as well.
So
maybe a Targaryen got turned into a White Walker.
Ooh.
Maybe that's the king of the White Walkers is actually an ancient Targaryen.
I'm pretty sure that's actually a theory somewhere. I feel like I read something about that. That's somewhere. That's very cool. Yeah, so listeners out there, viewers who are watching right now, what do you guys think? Do you guys have any theories about who's going to be on what side, what the battle's going to look like? Go ahead and chime in, say what you think, or send some questions. We'd love to hear about it via either the YouTube page. If you can send us to a message to us on Facebook or Twitter. We'd like to hear about your theories also. And fortunately, next week is also going to be an off week, or unfortunately, next week's going to be an off week, but there might be some theory discussing, because I try to avoid theory discussing on this show because I've read the books, and so it's some things you have to dance around a little bit. But I do think maybe next week might be a good week to kind of get into that fun fan theory, like long-term, series-long theories. But we'll find out. But for now, gentlemen, thank you so much for your input on that particular issues. But for now, let's go ahead and move into this week's episode, Mockingbird. All right, guys. So, what did you think of this episode? I mean, good, bad. We got to see some pretty crazy stuff happen. I mean, there's a lot going on here. I'll save my thoughts for last, though. Starting with Austin, what did you think of the episode?
And I know you both are going to disagree with me on this, but I do feel like this is, aside from episode 1, which gets a pass for me because it's episode 1, and episode 3, which is just after the death of Joffrey, so they're just kind of cleaning things up. I think this is the weakest episode of the season for me. I don't think anything super major really happened. There's a lot of build-up. The one major thing was at the very end, it is very major, and that's very important. But I felt a lot of it was not really going anywhere or anything like that. That we did talk about this earlier. A lot of people were calling it a filler episode. I don't agree with that per se, but I will say this: I'm comparing it to the rest of the episodes in this season, which I consider to be one of the greatest seasons of television ever. This season has just been completely insane, and if we were to drop this episode into even any of the earlier seasons, it would be one of the best ones by far.
Yep.
So I don't think it was that strong of an episode, but that's only in relation to the incredible, amazing season we've had so far.
Yeah, hold on just a second. Sorry. Hey, Stoll, we're picking up a lot of background noise from your audio. I don't know. Do you have your headphone turned on over your internal mic, maybe, or is it just like is your mic really, like, the sensitivity really high?
I don't think it's that bad.
Okay, because we were just picking up, like while Austin was talking, I was picking up something, and I don't know if it's I don't know if maybe it's your internal mic or if it's just, I don't know.
Do I sound like
you sound fine.
Like normally?
You sound
Okay.
fine. It sounded like someone was either vacuuming or spraying something down or something like that in the background, and it was just being picked up.
Is it better? Is it better now?
No, it's still there.
Yeah, you can still hear it.
It's like staticky almost.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on just a second.
Okay. Live viewers, thank you so much for your patience. We'll be back with the discussion in just a moment. We just want to make sure we have optimal sound quality for you guys to hear us. because it's been an issue the last couple weeks from all of us, not just one person.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Hopefully mine will be better this week, I hope.
Yeah, I hope so. We'll find out. I wonder if he doesn't have his internal mic's accidentally turned on, because like your headset shouldn't pick up unless its sensitivity turned way up. Shouldn't pick it up. I mean, pick up like background noise right there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, not that badly.
I mean, you're still the loudest thing, Austin, so it's not like a big deal. But
yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, I could hear it. It wasn't like horrible, but if we can get it fixed, that's good.
Yeah, exactly. So apparently, Watch Dogs. Oh, I already told you. Never mind. Yeah. They are. Hey, so for our listeners or viewers who might be interested in gaming while we're killing some time, apparently the Watch Dogs reviews are being put under embargo until day of release, which is really unusual for the high-profile game like that. So usually means that that company or publisher does not have quite as much confidence in their product.
They sorry, Infamous did that a little bit too, though.
Yeah.
And
Infamous was good. Infamous was pretty good, but it definitely had problems too.
Yeah, it did. It was far from perfect game.
Oh, still has to restart his computer.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, we'll hang out for a bit, I guess.
So yeah, Mr. Stoll will be back shortly, folks. He had to take a vacay. We'll be back. Yeah, but so that's a little disconcerting here, a little bit, to see that Watch Dogs is not.
People are getting excited about it again. There was a time where
no one really cared about it.
Dashing on it, and then now they're starting to get excited again.
Yeah, we'll see. I feel like even if this game isn't great, it's gonna be like Assassin's Creed. It may not be a great first game, although Assassin's Creed 1 at the time was pretty good. Assassin's Creed 2 really lived up to the promise of Assassin's Creed. So even if Watch Dogs 1 doesn't quite make it, I think a sequel will probably be doing them well. And I'm sure if it sells enough copies, they're gonna be next gen. They're gonna be making like a Watch Dogs a year.
Yeah, probably. Annualize that crap.
Annualize that crap. That's what we do.
That's the recipe for success.
Yeah, annualizing crap. So.
Oh, by the way, did you see that John Oliver did a little Nintendo segment on his new show?
I didn't. I tried to get on and watch the show last night, and the episode, like the new episode, was on HBO Go. It was really.
He was talking about the Tamagotchi life kind of controversy, where you can't have like gay relationships and stuff in that.
Oh gosh.
So he put various Nintendo characters in precarious situations.
Oh crap! I gotta go watch that. John Oliver's show is really funny. I mean, although I saw the old man penis and could not, I'm kind of stuck for life.
But it was picturing it right now in your brain.
Yeah, shut up. Yeah, it's burned into the back of my skull, and I can't do anything about it. It's just stuck there, tragically. Yeah. But it's pretty funny though. I thought it was really good. The last episode I watched was a couple weeks ago. He was talking about how that NFL player had come out of the closet or whatever, and he was like the first gay NFL player drafted or something like that. And it
Michael Sam.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, good show. John Oliver's Last Week Tonight or whatever it's called.
Yeah, I believe that's it.
Check it out.
Another HBO show.
Another HBO show, because I'm sure all our Game of Thrones fans, listeners love watching HBO.
Yeah, and I'm sure all of them are watching it totally legitimately.
Yeah, they're not having watch parties or stealing a friend's HBO Go password. No, I trust our listeners to the truth that they are all.
Why would you even mention that, Caleb? Come on.
I mean, seriously, we live in a world. It's very clean. People are honest people, right? I mean, it's not like we watch off of someone else's HBO account either. I mean, seriously, that'd just be ridiculous. I mean, what kind of irresponsible people would we be? Yeah. Woo! So, yeah. So I was talking about X-Men earlier, and me and Austin were talking off air about this a little bit. But guys, X-Men Days of Future Past this weekend. Guess who's going to be there? 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock or whatever, midnight, Thursday night. This guy right here. I'm super pumped. It's going to be the best freaking X-Men movie ever.
You're a big old dork. That's what you are.
I love the X-Men. Don't you dare call me a dork. I don't care if I just watched the UK premiere today online because I have no life. I gotta say, I watched that. Okay, so I totally watched like the red carpet in the UK or whatever. Patrick Stewart. I mean, I follow him on Twitter, so I've known this for a while. But he is the freaking coolest, funniest old dude ever. Period. His interview was hilarious. I mean, he just was cracking jokes the whole time. I mean, oh my gosh, and he just was like giddy like a school kid or something like that. Except for he's like 75 or whatever. Coolest old dude ever. In fact, if he lived in Scottsdale, if all the old people in Scottsdale were like Patrick Stewart, I would think Scottsdale's the greatest place on earth. Tragically, it's not so.
Oh, there were some fans. Speaking of this week's episode.
Yeah.
Discussing potential spin-offs.
Okay. The Hound and Arya, right?
No. We're going to create a cooking show with Hot Pie where he teaches us how to cook delicious Westerosi treats.
Nice. That's a great show. He get his own thing on the Food Network. I'd watch it.
Yeah. How
to make the kidney pie, right?
Yep. It's all about the gravy.
Oh yeah, gravy. I'm gonna get labeled as a gay when this is done. Like a gay person. Well, I guess if homosexuality is not brought in the conversation, it's not a real conversation anymore these days, anyway. So there you go. So I'd watch a cooking show. You know what else you guys should do? You should get on our Facebook and go check out that NBA video Austin posted earlier this week. I thought it was quite funny. And I don't even know jack about the NBA, but it was pretty funny.
Oh, it's hilarious is what it is. We're having a battle at the wall right now, actually, with OKC and the Spurs playing at the moment.
Oh man, how's it going? How's it going? Are the men's of the Night's Watch doing well?
The Spurs are up by 7.
Gosh dang those Spurs.
That's all right though. 7's not bad. It's first half.
You know what? I bet Drew is actually watching the Thunder game. That's what it is. I love you, Drew. I don't blame you for choosing the Thunder over me. It's okay. Okay. Anyway. So yeah, cool, good deal. I would love to see a Hound Arya spinoff. That'd be pretty cool. Be like Blues Brothers style, riding around Westeros, just killing fools. Make it a Case of the Week episode. They just go and kill people. Like they have like these they've got like big bads every week. It's like Smallville style. Like they've got these big bads of Westeros they got to take out. Season finale, Jaime Lannister. Okay. Are we in? And then like the series finale is Jon Snow and the men of the Night's Watch. Like at that point he's like the commander of the Night's Watch. And he's got the whole army. Yeah, and the two of them just take them all out. I'd watch that show. I mean,
is Jaime on Arya's list? I don't think he is he?
No, Jaime's not. Her list originally her list was just the people who were directly connected to Ned's death, and then the show's kind of tweaked it a little bit.
Started expanding it. Now she just kills anyone who she knows their name.
Yeah, she's left certain names off and then added more. Basically, what it comes down to is I think she's just killing people who are. Originally, it was people who were responsible for Ned's death, and in the book, it was like remember how all those people were standing up there watching him die? Yeah, pretty much all those people on her death list, all of them. And then
we used to compare her a little bit to Batman because she's like an orphan, blah blah blah.
She is an orphan.
She's more the Punisher. That's what she is.
She really is more the Punisher. Arya is definitely going to go Punisher style, hardcore on some fools. She's gonna have dual pistols and stuff like that. Gonna have a headband. Yeah. Gonna happen. Skull shirt. I see it right now.
She's gonna start wearing people's skulls, just people she kills.
Wearing around her neck. She's wearing a skull necklace around her neck.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh my gosh! Wow. Yeah.
She's gonna drink out of people's skulls.
Oh, she's gonna turn to that one guy. That's terrible. Yeah. So, Mr. Stoll. Hey, for those of you tuning in on YouTube, I'm sorry, we're having some technical difficulties. So me and Austin are just kind of killing some time here. Shooting the breeze, killing Game of Thrones. We don't want to talk about the episode too much because Mr. Stoll is key to our Game of Thrones discussion this week. And if he's not on, it's just not a good episode. So if you guys can just continue to stay patient and tune in, we will be answering your questions and taking your feedback a little later and be hashing out specifics of this episode. Actually, Austin, I can't even remember. Where was I at when he left? Do you remember?
He was getting ready to tell you his impressions of the episode.
Oh, that's right. Cool.
I had just finished, and then he left.
That computer's taking a long time to boot back up. I wonder what the problem is. He might be trying to adjust his mic, though. Maybe that's what it is. Oh, boy. Well, hey, I'll say one thing. When this episode is done and published online, we will be, we'll sound crystal clear. Oh, he's back. He's back. Back in black. Oh, Austin, this is a great picture, but Chris Tobin sent this to me a year ago. Great picture, though.
I sent it a year ago.
Yeah, this picture. Yep. Sorry. Kind of wrecking the illusion. It's a pretty awesome picture, though.
Oh, man. Okay, well, then I'll send you this one instead.
Okay. I think it's a sick picture. I do. I just remember he sent that one specifically to me a year ago. Okay. More pictures. I wish we could show these. Can we show these to our listeners?
I think you can do a screen share if you wanted to show everyone your entire desktop.
Okay. Well, they can see on my dating website and garbage. Where's that at? How do you do that? Where's the screen share?
I don't remember.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Hey!
Yeah, he's back.
Do my sound okay?
You sound fine now. You're good. We're picking up.
Okay.
You might try pulling the mic away from your mouth a little bit though, because we are picking up some of your breathing. I don't know if that'll help or not.
Is this helping at all?
Yes. That sounds great. I get no breathing, no background noise. Sounds good.
Yep, we're rolling.
Sorry, my computer sucks and my internet's not the greatest, so it's...
Hey, you know what? We live in first world problems, man. The most important thing is we're all podcasting together, and we've maintained one viewer the whole time this is happening. Whoever you are, we love you. And we're gonna
put us on mute. I know.
They're like, put us on mute. We're in the backdrop. Yeah. Hey, you specifically, comment right now and say this is you, and we will answer whatever question you want. Heck, I'll even strip down for you. Just be like, hey, listen, man.
Now hold on.
I appreciate your loyalty.
This offer. How about this offer? If you say something, he won't strip down.
Okay.
Oh.
I've been working out, Austin. Come on, man. Working out. You're getting ripped. I mean, come on. You don't want to see this? All right. All right.
So let's pick up where we were.
Let's left off.
Ask you what you thought of this week's episode.
Okay. I'll just say Austin's comments are fair. I understand where he's coming from, but I disagree. This was actually my favorite episode so far. I thought it was very strong. I thought there were a lot of strong character moments. Ones that pop off in my head are obviously the Oberyn and Tyrion scene, then obviously the Littlefinger stuff we got at the end, the Littlefinger with Sansa, and then also the Littlefinger Eliza stuff. Then some of the Jaime stuff we had, especially one of my favorite scenes was the Jaime Tyrion scene, honestly, where we really got to see them connect. Was a really great scene for me. However, I will preface that with a lot of these moments I was really looking forward to building up from the book. So perhaps I could be somewhat biased because I was really anticipating some of these conversations and some of these moments. And when I finally got to see it on the screen, I was just kind of had this exciting moments like, yes, we're finally there. So I will say that about that, but I still think for me, on a personal level, I really enjoyed some of the character moments and conversations that we got to see from this week's episode. I really enjoyed this episode.
Totally fair, and I fall somewhere in between the two of you guys because I'm totally with you. Some of these scenes, particularly the one with Bronn and Tyrion, and Oberyn and Tyrion, were two. And then obviously the stuff with Littlefinger at the end, I've been like I want to see this stuff. I want to hear these conversations. These are like some of the most powerful moments in the show. And again, even with Jaime, even though it wasn't in the book, it was still really glad. I love being able to see those guys interact, just period. So yeah, there were some really big moments in this episode that I really, really loved. And I think overall this is still one of the better episodes of the season. However, I don't know if it, while the scene at the end with the Littlefinger was probably one of my favorite moments of the season so far, period, I don't know if it quite carries the impact of the trial last week. I also think that I don't think this is an episode with a filler episode. I do feel like certain scenes could be considered filler scenes. I'm speaking specifically about the scene with Melisandre and Stannis' wife.
I would agree with that, I think.
And I don't think that it was quite as tight and and organized as the last 2 or 3 have been. It didn't the flow, and honestly, my initial reaction was much higher. Like when I went back and watched it a second time, I had kind of adjusted the hype a little bit, and I think that it doesn't flow quite as well as the last 3 or 4. I mean, because like Austin said, we've seen some really, truly excellent episodes, and part of one of the reasons I like all the episodes this season is just how well they've all flown. There's not, like, earlier, and especially last season, there were so many storylines going on. They were hopping all over the place, back and forth, back and forth. It was really nice to kind of have some of these scenes that kind of worked, one scene at a time. And this episode didn't quite feel quite as focused as some of the past. So I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. I thought this wasn't a great episode, and I think what Austin said is totally true. If this was in another season of Game of Thrones, this would have been an outstanding episode. And I think in this season, it's still an outstanding episode no matter what. But I think in the context of the season, it is not the best, but a really good one, somewhere in the middle. And I still think though, and I will argue to the death, that this has some of the best moments of the whole series so far. So yeah, it's kind of what I'm feeling. But let's go ahead. We're going to go ahead and hit on specifics, though, because you don't want to share our initial thoughts. You actually want us to go in and dissect each scene. You want to hear the ins and the outs and the philosophical examinations and all that great jazz. So
you have very high expectations of us.
I trust you guys with my life. All right. So first off, let's hit with one of the big storylines, King's Landing. You know what? We didn't see much from King's Landing this week, but the only thing we really saw was Jamie. Or sorry. The only thing we really saw in King's Landing this week was Tyrion, and 3 scenes with Tyrion specifically. And we'll go ahead and start off with the scene between Jamie and Tyrion. And guys, love the scene, love the interaction, like I already mentioned. Just seeing these two guys interact, and I think it's interesting that these two bond very, very well in their spite and hatred for Tywin. Because they both considered just giving up so that they could piss Tywin off, which is kind of funny. I mean, they always entertain the idea for a second. They're like, whoa, wouldn't that be funny? And then the other thing I take away from this scene is that Tyrion totally calls Jamie out on sleeping seriously, point blank. Says you can sleep with your sister like nothing, and then just whoa.
As if doing it publicly in the trial wasn't good enough. He's like, hey, and just in case I wasn't clear, you screwed your sister. You did that
3 times at least.
God, it was awful. Why would he do that? Obviously he's the only who else? No one else has come to even visit Tyrion at this point. And he's like, screw you, Jamie. You tried to save my life. I hate you. Tyrion's not a nice man.
Listen, Tyrion's kind of upset at the world right now, okay? He's an angsty teenager. The whole world is just crapped all over him. And this is the same guy who last episode said, I wish I could poison every single one of you, okay? So
he really is. Yeah. He really is behaving like a teenager. That's actually really a good analogy, I think, considering how he acted at the end of the trial. He threw a big tantrum, which I'm excited he did. It was awesome. But was it the greatest decision? Probably not.
But Austin, he was right, and all of his claims were correct, though. It's not like it was unjust tantrum. It was
no, I know that. But someone had already, made a sacrifice to try to save your life, and you were like, screw that. I'm going to try to risk my life.
Well, that's great. Great that you mentioned that, because we'll give us a second to segue into the fact that Tyrion basically said, I did that because I'm not going to do what my dad tells me to anymore. I'm over this. Screw Tywin, screw my dad. I'm going to do things my own way.
Gosh, my parents totally suck. I hate my parents.
I don't know, but before we kind of move on a little bit, I actually want to say I really did enjoy this episode because of the Tyrion-Jamie chemistry we got here. We always hear that these are the 2 Lannisters. They get along. They're the only 2 that, have some sort of respect for each other. And I think out of any moment of the TV show, this is the strongest moment I feel like we see between them, where they have that little moment where they joke about, like Caleb referenced, what if we just did this to make our dad mad? They have that little bonding moment, and we really get to see they really do care and love for each other, more so than any of the other Lannisters do for each other. And it was a really good moment for me anyway, just to see that pull up on the screen, because I know you get a lot more of that in the books, but just to see that on the screen, it was a really nice touch. I really enjoyed that part of that scene.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
This was the first of. It's funny, they were in these series of scenes, they were just like parading out all the options for champion. So this is where we see the first option, which is Jamie, his kind of go-to option, the one he wanted when he was in the Erie. Basically, Jamie just basically says, "I can't do it. I'm not good enough anymore. I can't beat anybody," and that's going to be hard for Jamie to admit. Like, he's a very confident, really arrogant person, honestly. Yep. And to see honestly, him admit, like, "I can't do this," is
right. And honestly,
interesting.
It's Jamie, and I think Jamie sort of has this moment like, "Look, if I'm your champion, we'll both just die. There's no point in that, you know. Like, I'll lose to the mountain, and then you'll die. So there's no point in, you know, us both dying for nothing.
You should just die, Tyrion. Don't worry about it. Like, I'm
just saving my own skin. Okay, so guys, the way I look at this is a Christmas Carol. Okay, so Ghost of Christmas Past is Jamie because his older brother always protected him and stuck up for him in the past, right? Option number 2 is Bronn, Ghost of Christmas Present, because Bronn's has been like his good buddy in King's Landing, right? Saving his butt, saving his life, being a great sellsword. And then the Ghost of Christmas Future, Oberyn Martell.
Christmas yet to come.
Sorry, Christmas yet to come, Oberyn Martell. So, you know, kind of this dark, ominous, like, killing machine. I'm very excited to see this. But yeah. No, Austin, I'm totally with you. Stoll, I'm totally with you. They really do feel like brothers in this scene, too, because...
Yeah,
Tyrion really does kind of call him out. Whether it was the right time, good timing or not, it's up for debate. But he really does call him out.
What else? Like, he might be dead the next day. So if you're ever going to call him out, go for it.
but they still love each other. Like even though Jamie threatens, he's like, "I'm your only friend. You better be careful." You know, like, but he's still his brother, and they still love each other, and they still get each other. And I felt like it was a really great scene between the two of them because of that. And we just don't get very many scenes between them. And I think Stoll's right. I think this is the best one we've seen so far.
And for me, I honestly felt like both actors did a really good job of having that almost a brotherly chemistry. I felt like they were brothers for a moment there. I thought both the actors performed really well in the scene. Obviously, Peter Dinklage is one of the strongest actors on the show and probably going to get an Emmy, as we've talked about, or at least be nominated. And for some of his work this season. And I felt like even they both just did a really good job in this scene.
Yeah, I mean, come on, Nikolai's pulling his weight too. Nikolai's also an actor who's probably never going to get nominated for that dang Emmy, even though he deserved it last season. You know.
Yeah, definitely.
So he pulls his weight here too. But let's go ahead and move on to Tyrion and Bronn because this was one I've been really looking forward to. And honestly, I think the show might have outdone the book to some extent. Bronn comes off a little more douchey and selfish in this scene, at least than I felt in the book. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I definitely, when I was watching it, I know he's a sellsword, but like,
right? Even Tyrion knows this.
Yeah.
It's not a surprise.
Well, I mean, even Tyrion in the scene says, "This is the reason that you're like, you know, ditching me right now is the exact reason that I picked you for my sellsword. You know, that's the kind of guy I needed. You know."
Right. Yeah, and it works. But it's so sad because you know that Bronn's he's looking out for himself, and ultimately he's looking out for himself. But you can tell he feels so bad because he actually really likes Tyrion, and Tyrion likes him. So I don't know. Would you guys call this a flat out betrayal?
No, I wouldn't. I would not. I think that Tyrion offers his hand. To shake his hand at the end. I think in the end Tyrion understands. I think Tyrion understands that if he were in the same position as Bronn, I think he might be making the same decision as Bronn would be making. You know, in the end, do I really have a chance against the Mountain? Maybe. Is it worth the risk? I don't. I'm gonna look out for myself.
When have you ever risked your life for me?
Exactly, and I think Tyrion understands that, and he respects that, and I think that's why he offers his hand and say, we had some good times together. Hopefully, you can make it through this, but I'm not going to be the one to save you. And I think Tyrion's okay with that.
I mean, he's probably not quite okay with it, but he understands.
He understands it.
But here's the thing: he understands, and he doesn't hold it against Bronn. I don't think.
Right.
Here's the thing with this scene, though, is I have been under the assumption and the impression that Bronn did betray him with Shae, that he turned Shae over to the Lannisters. And Tyrion doesn't seem to suspect that, and this scene never alludes to it and doesn't even talk about it. So I guess I'm wrong. I feel like if that was where it was going, then they would have said something. But so I don't know. That's always what I thought. I guess the implication is that Shay came back on her own.
Well, they do hint at some sort of play there because he does. Again, he's wearing the nice clothes, and he has. Cersei has given him a wife that's going to get him a castle.
Tyrion's not dumb. I feel like if that was the direction the show was going, he would have called Bronn on it. Like, oh, they paid you. Did you bring Shay too, so she could testify against me? Like, he would have said something, and that didn't happen. So I was a little disappointed that didn't happen because I thought, I don't know. It just seems convenient that Bronn was the one that took her to the boat, and then she shows up at the trial, and Bronn's a big sellsword who has no problem just doing things for money. I don't know.
Right, and I do wonder, and we'll find out, maybe that's something they might explore a little bit later in the season. I don't know if they will, but they do play that kind of ambiguous, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So I guess that was a disappointment. I thought that was going to get addressed in this episode or in this scene, and it didn't.
Yeah. Otherwise, though, I thought a really fitting send off for their friendship. It fits with kind of the tone they've always had. You know, we're friends, but you pay me. You know what I mean? Like, you know, we've had this off and on throughout the whole show. And I thought this was a very fitting send off. It's touching, but at the same time, ultimately, even though they like each other a lot, it still does come down to business. So
right.
And Tyrion keeps saying that he has money. He has money. Why would he have any money when this is done?
Well, I mean, I'm sure he's got his own. I mean, I don't investments and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know.
Maybe so. I just always assumed it came from his father. Essentially,
I mean, obviously he's inherited that because of his father, but I'm sure he actually has his own goal. I don't think it's all Tywin's he just takes from it. I think this is actually his goal. That he's earned or inherited or however that works. But yeah. But at the end of the day, he just can't promise Bronn 2 castles and 2 princesses. Sorry. So, which brings us to the last category, the ghost of Christmas yet to come. Gosh, guys, this was a great scene the first time. It was a better scene the second time. Wow, the scene between Tyrion and Oberyn on so many levels. Oh gosh, one of the best scenes of the season. There's so many lines in here that are just chilling, and true, and just bam to the heart. I've got a couple highlighted here. Making honest feelings do honest work is one of her many talents, which is talking about Cersei. Or it is rare to meet a Lannister who shares my enthusiasm to see dead Lannisters. Or pretty much anything in Oberyn's little monologue about how he met Tyrion when he was a baby. I mean, wow. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I cut out for a second. I really enjoy this scene. Was just really, really great. Oberyn did a fantastic. Oberyn was just so strong in the scene, and this was the scene that sold. I already liked Oberyn, but this is the scene where he just becomes one of my favorite characters. Just the way that the way his mindset is about the world. I love it, and just the whole conversation that he had, where he's. I don't understand why no one else has this view, honestly, because the way he talks about, meeting Tyrion, where he's like, we were waiting for this monster and we didn't find one. Why does everyone else have to look at it that way? Why can't they see it Oberyn's way? It kind of, like, him revealing that story sort of frustrated me with everybody else. Like, yeah, he's not a monster. Why are you all thinking this? So I just love Oberyn. I love what the show, honestly, has done with his character. You don't get this much character development in the books with him. Yeah. And what they have done with him is just fantastic. I love it. I think it's one of the greatest things they could have done with his character is just build him this way. And he is easily one of my favorite characters that I've ever had on the show. And yeah, I'm super pumped for next week's episode.
Daniel, will you stop talking about how you're your favorite character? Because I know what's happened to your last favorite characters.
That's very true. That's very true.
You need to recant right now.
No, you're jinxing this show. You're jinxing this show. Don't put Oberyn in danger. Hate him. Hate him a lot. I
hate him so much. I wish he would have not been Tyrion's champion. What? I don't
know. No, I totally agree. This scene for me was by far the best scene in the show. And the story was good.
Wait, the whole show?
The whole show. The story was good. that he was telling, like Tyrion, didn't know about this. He didn't even realize that he had met Oberyn even as a baby.
And it's definitely very emotional for Tyrion. It's one of the most emotional moments we've seen of Tyrion.
Yeah, that was, I say, the really shining kind of moment of this show, or of this entire show, I think, was the facial expressions by Peter Dinklage and stuff. Hearing the story and emotion like coming over him and stuff. That is like the best part of the whole show for me. It was pretty great. And it's nice to see Oberyn, the only person in King's Landing, aside from maybe Tyrion, has any respect for humanity, for human life, for dignity. He really is like represents kind of morality in King's Landing right now.
Yeah, Austin, I think what really hurt. I mean, this was a great scene all together, and I think you're right, and I think it is really great. Do we get to see his more human perspective on humans? Like, hey, Tyrion, you're not a monster. I don't think. I mean, he in a roundabout way says, I don't think you did this, but I'm gonna right the wrongs that have been done to both of us and our families. We live in this very dark, bleak world, and I'm going to right those wrongs. I still think Oberyn is being incredibly selfish in this move. It's all about him and less about Tyrion. But I do think though they're definitely able to connect on that level. And I think the part that hurts so much, again with Peter Dinklage's expressions, is that it's the moment where he realizes deep down his sister really does hate everything about him. Like that's
from day one.
From day one. Like it's not that she just developed this hatred. No, she really, to her deepest core, hates everything about him.
And us as an audience, we've been told that everyone sort of hated Tyrion from the beginning, but this story really shows us they seriously was wishing for a baby, to die. You know what I mean? There's just you can't get around that. We really get to see how much just from the very beginning that Tyrion had no chance with his family.
Never had a chance, not one.
I mean, yeah, between this scene and the scene last season where Tywin's like, I wanted to drown you, but I didn't because you're a Lannister, basically saying you're a piece of shit, but I kept you alive because you got my name. His family, really deep down in the core, you see how deep his family really does hate him. Even though he's done so much for his family, he's done so much for all of them. Jaime. He was trying to negotiate Jaime earlier in the show, and Cersei by keeping her safe at King's Landing, and Tywin by honestly being Tywin's true successor. He's done so much for his family, but he knows that. But this is like one of those scenes you see the total defeat and heartbreak there that he never even had a chance, never, ever. So it's sad.
So it has to be mentioned, Oberyn then volunteers because he sees an opportunity to kill the Mountain, and it is going to be glorious.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Basically, the Mountain was chosen by Cersei as their champion because she wants to make sure Tyrion doesn't make it. So Oberyn volunteers, and holy crap, guys! Woo! It's gonna be friggin' epic. God, it's gonna be epic.
It's gonna be so good. I'm so excited. I was hoping for a little bit of Tyrion versus the Mountain, David and Goliath action. Tyrion's got his stone and a sling.
Carry 5 stones, yeah.
But
hey, Tyrion did kill a man with a shield.
It's true.
Mm-hmm. But this is going to be epic. It's going to be so good, especially if you watch the preview for the next episode.
Okay, I was going to see if we could talk about that.
Just go ahead. Forget it. We'll talk about it again later. Now, Oberyn versus the Mountain next week or 2 weeks from today.
I'd like to hear what Austin gathered from the little preview thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, what I gathered from it?
Yeah, because I noticed something distinct, but I know what I'm
to look for. Nothing substantive. It's just that I noticed that Oberyn learned his moves from Darth Maul. That's about it.
Okay, so that's the one thing that I actually wanted to point out is that he's I thought it was interesting how at the beginning of the season could you see the weapon that he was holding?
It was like a double-sided spear, right? Like two.
Okay, so that's what I thought was so interesting. How they set up this very beginning of the season. He says swords are weak in short combat or whatever, and he uses a knife. But then in this preview, we see him with the longest spear ever, and it's just I don't know. I thought it was just kind of
he was talking indoor combat.
Yeah, I know, but I just think it's funny how it's. Yeah.
We're gonna see epic mono e mono dual fate style fight here, guys. It's gonna be pretty dang epic. And I just have to say, and I know I mentioned this last week. This is probably one of, if not the most anticipated moments for all book reader or almost all book readers I've talked to in the show. There's so much at stake. It's not just that it's an epic fight. There's actually a lot of substance to it. If this happens, Tyrion dies, and if Tyrion dies, I mean, like, Westeros has changed, and then everyone's favorite character dies, and then
you have the whole dynamic of Oberyn versus the Mountain, how we set up at the very first episode with Oberyn, like, hating the Mountain with everything that is within him, wanting complete revenge, and there's just so many different levels. And then we even have, which this part, unless I remember correctly, was not in the books. Then we have the whole dynamic of where Tywin promised Oberyn that he would help him bring justice to the Mountain. So there's even that dynamic on this now.
Right.
So there's just so many different layers that are involved here.
Yeah. There's so much at stake, and so much. The consequences are going to be huge either way. I mean, because even if Tyrion, say Oberyn wins and Tyrion makes it alive, what's that going to mean for those guys? I mean, no one's going to like Tyrion anyway. They're still going to think he did it.
Well, I think I don't think Tywin cares whether Tyrion lives or not. If he lives, fine. If he doesn't, fine. The only person who really cares here is Cersei. But I do think it will be amazing when Oberyn wins and takes Tyrion with him down to Dorne, and Dorne and Tyrion just hang out on the beach with all the women. He's going to be living it up.
Austin, you're saying this, and it delights me.
Yes, it delights me. Or maybe Oberyn and Tyrion have this epic lovemaking session.
Whoa!
Hey-ho.
No. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking on this topic. Here's what I want to see happen. Okay, I want there to be an epic duel. I want Oberyn to kill the Mountain, and then I want him to do an epic Darth Maul spear spin, and then chuck it at Tywin through the face.
The music that's going to be playing over this battle.
Yeah, it's Dual Fates, man. Dual Fates. There will be epic video game music played.
The thing is that I think about this scene is, even if let's say that Oberyn wins or whatever, and like we were saying just a second ago, the people are still going to hate Tyrion. They're still going to think he did it. He just got away with a lucky fight or whatever. Can he even stay in King's Landing logically?
He's got to leave.
No, he's got to go.
So he's either dead or out of King's Landing. So that's going to change no matter what happens. Even and that's another level on this is no matter what happens, this changes. Tyrion changes King's Landing forever.
Yeah, it changes the Lannister family dynamics. It changes everything. No matter what happens, Tyrion wins or loses, or Oberyn wins or loses. Which brings
before I realized that Oberyn was going to be the champion, I thought he has to flee to Essos. He has to. But now this offers another intriguing alternative.
Absolutely. So Austin, here comes a question. Me and Steve read the book, so we know where this is going. So we're not going to talk about this conversation.
I actually 100% don't know where this is going. I still haven't seen some of the follow-up yet. So.
Well, but I do want to ask Austin the question. Do you think Oberyn's going to win?
Oberyn's going to win.
Okay. I mean, I think I'd say his
storyline I don't think is over yet. I think there is so much more to explore with him. I think from a literary perspective and from George R. R. Martin's perspective, there's a lot more you can do with Oberyn as a character. Now, yeah, he could kill him. He's done stuff like that before, but I think just from a story perspective, it would be more interesting if he lives.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, we all love Oberyn, so to see him go would probably be pretty damn tragic, and like you said, kind of a lot of lost potential there. But anyway, I just wanted to get some perspective from someone who didn't know what was going to happen or what the impact was going to be.
We will find out in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, I know.
Gosh
right?
Dang it! Every Memorial Day. Okay. Game of Thrones doesn't care about Easter. Game of Thrones doesn't care about Mother's Day. Doesn't care about Father's Day. But man, that Memorial Day, God bless America. We got to take it off.
That's right. Game of Thrones loves America.
Gosh dang it! And you know what? Last year it was the week before the Red Wedding too. So I was like, gosh dang it! I can't wait for the Red Wedding. And wait 2 weeks. And this week it's like, oh, it's even worse. I'm just like, how do I wait for this fight?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Red Wedding was bad. This could potentially be an amazing thing.
Oh god, I'm getting chills right now talking about this, guys. This fight.
I will say that when I read this in the book and everything, I had to read the chapter like the last 2 pages of the chapter like 2 times. Just it's so crazy, like it's so intense, and you're just man.
You're talking about the actual fight.
Yes.
Yes. I read the fight like 3 or 4 times to make sure that I got everything. Like it was man.
I just need to say this, guys, and this is and then again I'm not one of those snobs who's like the books are better than the show. I think both of them,
me neither.
I think both of them provide very, very great benefits to doing both, which is why I tell everyone to watch the show and read the books in one of those orders. But there's something very visceral about the way Martin writes, and there's like that fight, the way he describes it, and it all plays out the way he writes and crafts is such a detailed environment, and the thoughts of the people watching the fight, because I think you see it from Tyrion's perspective.
You do. That's what I was going to say. You get to see Tyrion thinking about everything while the fight is happening, and it's just, oh man.
Yeah. The way it's described, though, it's just like you were there. I mean, it's just so visceral. I mean, I've said visceral a couple times, but yeah. Anyway. We'll have to save all the gushing on this fight for 2 weeks because, man,
when it actually happens.
It actually
I guess
happens.
this will give us plenty to talk about next week too. So
God, we're gonna have so much
hand on it then.
All right. Well, now that we've gotten that out of our system for now, temporarily, let's go ahead and move on to some of the less interesting storylines, but still kind of fun. Let's go ahead. First up is let's go north to the Wall, and we get to see Jon's back, and Alistair Thorne still doesn't like him. Surprise?
God, I hate that guy.
Yeah. It was just another scene to build up. Jon saying we should do this, and eventually what's going to happen is Jon's going to end up being right, and the whole Night's Watch is going to die except for Jon Snow. Hopefully Sam Tarly falls too, and then they're going to move on. Now, here's my prediction. Okay, the Wall falls. It's destroyed by the Wildlings. But the Wildlings aren't dumb. The Wildlings want to keep the White Walkers out. They become the Night's Watch. 100,000-man Night's Watch army of Wildlings. And they're just going to guard the Wall. Keep everybody safe.
Yeah.
You don't like that theory. I could already tell. You're like, shut up, Austin. This is stupid.
I was actually distracted. We actually got a comment on our YouTube page. So I was a little distracted. Hey, Stoll, we are picking up a little more of your breathing, though. I don't know what can be done about it, but
I'll try my best.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's just really weird because we never picked it up until last week. It's just really odd. Anyway, it's cool. So yeah. I think this is more. I mean, when people say that this episode is filler, this is one of those scenes I kind of get where they're coming from because it doesn't really do a lot to advance the plot.
No.
Just kind of reinforces.
It's just covering the same ground they've already covered, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
we're checking in.
There wasn't really a lot here. So
They needed to give Jon Snow some screen time to justify that contract. So.
Yeah. Justify the screen. Kind of like Alfie Allen in season 3 of Game of Thrones. That's why we had to watch him on the torture block.
Basically.
But yeah, I mean it's fine. I think we're gonna see a lot more action at the Wall starting next week. But all I got to say about this, guys, is giants. That's right. So let's go ahead and move on to something, another subplot that was kind of still filler, but still way infinitely more interesting and cool. And that is we're jumping into the Riverlands where we get to catch up with the Hound and Arya again. And we had I found it to be a very unusual scene between Arya, the Hound, and then that random old lady who was dying. And it was honestly in a weird sort of way kind of touching, kind of dark and sad, but it was kind of cool because we got to see, I feel like the Hound connect with Arya on a more personable, like feels type level.
Yeah, we got a personal moment from the Hound. It was really, really interesting.
Yeah. It's kind of like hell froze over or something like that. I don't know, guys.
He's trying to teach Arya. Like, he doesn't... I think he has a little bit of respect for her, but knows that she doesn't have a father, doesn't have anyone to teach her anything, and he's all she has, basically, right now. And I think he recognizes that. As horrible of a man as he is, I think he does care for her quite a bit.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, that's pretty explicit. Now, I don't know. Whenever he killed the guy, when he stabbed him in the heart, and he said that's where the heart is. I don't know about you guys, and told me crazy. For some reason, I just heard in my head the kind of the echoes of home is where the heart is. And so like it was kind of the Hound, and this is totally me reading into it way crazy. Kind of the Hound telling Arya that you know, you don't really have a home anymore, but we're gonna be together. You know, you're with me basically. I'm here to protect you. I don't know. That's totally a stretch.
Into it a little bit, but at the very least, he's like trying to teach her something. You know?
Yeah.
Because ultimately, the Hound may need her at some point to save him, and you know it's better if she knows how to fight. So the one interesting thing is we had the guy show up and bite the Hound.
We got a little cameo from Biter and Rorge, which by the way, these guys, there is a group in the books known as oh crap, Stoll. Remember what they're named?
I don't even remember.
They're the guys who actually captured Jaime, and
the companions.
Yeah, the brave companions. That's it.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And they're like the scumbags in Westeros. They're like the don't mess with these guys mercenaries because they like screw people up. They cut Jaime's hand off just because they could. They didn't really care. So you had all that going on, and Biter and Rorge were both members of that group. So it was nice little cameo, even though that group has pretty much been cut from the show for good reason, just because they didn't really. It's just another group of people they didn't really have to throw in there. But anyway, it's kind of cool that we got to see that little cameo there, because Biter would just go up and bite people, sharp teeth.
I think though the interesting part about this scene was or this part of the scene at least, was the Hound asks, is he on your list? And she says, no, he can't be. I don't know his name. And he says, Rorge. And she stabs him, which reminds me of Jaqen, when Jaqen's like, a man needs a name. Maybe she picked something up from the Faceless Men. Now
Dude,
she only kills people who she knows their names.
No. This is totally the pattern of a freaking sociopath. I can't kill them until I know their name. I want to kill them. So once you find out,
yeah, I don't think anyone's ever denied that she's a sociopath.
She's gonna be freaking.
She's an amazing vigilante. That's what she is.
No. She's gonna be freaking Dexter Morgan. Okay, that's what's going down here.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. Dexter's amazing.
Man, I mean, he at one point was called the Dark Avenger or whatever.
Yeah, because Rourke pops up. Arya's Dexter, right? Rourke pops up. He's like, "Gotcha, motherfucker!"
Thank you.
He was like, "Nope."
Yeah, that was a Dexter reference, still. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I figured it was, and I just.
Surprise, motherfucker!
Yeah, that's what it is. That's it. Oh God. Anyway.
But yeah. But okay, then moving on to the next part of that scene, though, where he's got the Hound's trying to clean up the wound, and Arya actually tries to help him, but with fire. So he's like, "Get away! I don't like fire." But they did have a nice little exchange, and he talks about how he feels like abandoned. He kind of feels like abandoned by his own family. We find out it just wasn't his brother Gregor the Mountain Clegane. It was also his father, because his father chose the mountain
to cover it up, right?
Cover it up. Yeah. He chose his older son over his younger son, and the favoritism, and how that's kind of like really driven him to be the man he is. And this is the closest to an emotional moment. The only other moment I could think to him that was kind of emotional, and it was for a totally different reason, was when he was at Blackwater and saw the fire and was scared.
Right.
But other than that, this is probably the most emotional and vulnerable we've seen this character, which I think is really great.
Oh yeah, it was really nice little touch character moment we got to see from him. We have got, like you said, almost none of those like emotional moments from him, so it was very, very nice to see that even the Hound has these little has a heart and is emotional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm totally with you. Okay, sorry, got a weird.
You're distracted again. Stop reading stuff.
I got an email from
a podcast here.
I know, but I got an email regarding the podcast, so I just was distracted. So yeah. I thought this was one of the more, like you still said, we've maybe seen two moments like this the whole show, so it was cool. We got there is some sympathy for the Hound out there, even though they've made it explicitly clear of this season that this guy is a cold-hearted killer who is so pragmatic and realist that he has no hope in humanity.
Yeah, it was good. It characterized him a little bit. Hopefully, when they do things like this, it means the character will stick around a little bit, or maybe it'll just make you like him when he gets killed.
No,
Then you care about it. So
this is Game of Thrones. This is Game of Thrones, Austin. They're making you like him so they can kill him.
I know they haven't killed off any characters I like this year.
Isn't it great? They're killing a bunch of bad guys. Not bad guys. People we don't
Not
like.
yet, anyway.
Joffrey, Lysa.
We could
I mean,
still
come
lose
on.
Oberyn and Tyrion.
Don't
next
speak
episode,
of
so.
Austin. Do not speak of such things. I can't. My heart can't take it. Okay.
I just keep by telling myself that can't happen. That can't happen. So I believe it now.
Yeah, it's only truth if you believe in it. Okay, so moving on though to the next scene here, which Bree and Podrick, not exactly my favorite duo. They're fun. They're cool.
Hot Pie cameo though.
Yes, we did get a Hot Pie cameo.
That was the most exciting part of the scene for me.
Yeah, it was. It was
oh, it's Hot Pie! Hey,
I was like, oh, hey, look!
It's like, what? And he made an even better version of the pie. Remember, he made a better wolf cake or biscuit or whatever it is.
Yeah, he did.
But hey, Bree and Podrick just kind of we're still learning their dynamics, I guess. We see that basically Podrick's used to working for Tyrion, so drinking a lot and being relaxed and chill, and she's like, we don't drink on the road. We don't do that. And so it's kind of an adjustment there. He gets some dynamics. But yeah, Hot Pie's there, kind of gives him some insight with Arya and where he last saw her, so that was kind of cool. It is kind of nice to see some of these threads do come back around. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just some of these threads were kind of hanging a little bit, and it's not that we needed to revisit them, but it's nice to see if they actually do kind of tie into where the show is ultimately going. But I think the more important takeaway from the scene is that obviously they're heading toward the Eyrie now, right?
That's why this scene. So I think this is the dumbest scene of the whole episode. I really do. If Podrick, just logically, if Podrick already had all this knowledge in his big dumb head, why didn't he say this as soon as they left King's Landing? Like, hey, probably the most obvious place for Sansa to go is her only living relative. So why did it take them wandering around the countryside before he said, hey, how about we head there? It just didn't make any sense.
Well, they've been. I don't know how long they've been out. It's not like they've been out that long, though.
They've at least camped a couple nights. So, he had enough time to light a rabbit on fire. It should have came up before that.
Well, fair enough. Stoll, do you have any thoughts on the matter?
No, I didn't really think about it too much. I sort of thought this was one of the weaker scenes of this episode. No, yeah, and it's like you said earlier about the Jon Snow scene. This is one of those things where like, okay, I can kind of see where people are coming from with the filler stuff. But see, the thing for me is that outside of those two scenes that we've mentioned so far, every other scene has been fantastic for me. So that's why I guess it makes it up for it for me. So
well, you know what? Me and Austin were arguing about this off the air. I don't think this scene is filler. I know it's not the most eventful.
I know it's not filler because I know it's going somewhere, but I can see where people are coming from because it's much more slower paced part of the story and not a lot happens.
Yeah,
so.
No. And honestly, and this is again, I try to avoid referencing the book like crazy, so I should probably stop. I gotta put a ban on myself after this point in the episode. But I never found Brienne's storyline in the books particularly interesting, but that being said, it definitely goes somewhere. And while I don't think it's very interesting right now, I'm with you. It's probably one of the weaker episodes of the weaker scenes of the episode. I definitely don't think it's a throwaway scene. I think it is going to pay off, even if it is immensely boring and why do I care?
Right
now, that doesn't mean it's filler though, because we needed to see this, so we knew that they were heading towards the Eyrie and making the next step in their journey.
Because if you don't see this when they just show up at the Eyrie, you're like, what the heck?
So my only point is that could have happened 2 episodes ago. It's just I don't know. It's just the whole thing with Pod and Brienne so far has been zero payoff. I think
you're right, but I think some of that is they've got to get the timeline set up right because they can't just have them off screen for 5 episodes while they set everything up at the Eyrie.
Right.
So they're showing them, hey, they're walking there. Hey, don't forget that they're walking there.
Well, that's why they didn't mention the Eyrie thing a couple episodes ago because they need to save that for another time. Yeah, I don't know. I'm with you, and I'm interested to see how this plays out later, but I wouldn't call it filler. I would just call it a weak scene. And I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's going to pay off. I mean, I know it's going to pay off eventually. It's just not the most interesting storyline to follow.
Anyway, we don't have to complain about that anymore. I was just pointing it out.
Yeah. No, fair point. All right, guys. Well, I think that we are reaching midway through our discussion. So let's go ahead and take this time to say we are presented through a great partner, the TV, movie, gaming website, WeGetThisCovered.com. They're one of the greatest sources out there for TV, gaming, movie news. I've been following them. They do these great Game of Thrones recaps, and if you were listening at the top of the show, they also had their X-Men Days of Future Past review come out this last week. And guys, I'm an X-Men fanboy. Like, I've tried to fight it. I try to fight it so hard and say, no, I'm a critic, because I am a critic. I write movie reviews all the time, but gosh dang it. Every once in a while, there's my inner child comes out, and I just have to get behind something so crazy. And X-Men is one of those, and I can't wait to see this movie. And I really enjoyed the X-Men Days of Future Past review by WeGetThisCovered.com. Also, there are games on the horizon, maybe like Watch Dogs, that you might want to read a review. And everyone goes to IGN and GameSpot, but you know what? We Get This Covered is going to give you a different perspective. That's not going to be all these crazy neckbeards writing these reviews. You're going to get something a little more legitimate. So I would highly suggest you guys check them out.
Yeah, it seems like they got a lot of stuff covered over there.
Yeah. You could say they've got it all covered, right? So yeah. But I also want to remind our live viewers and our listeners via the edited podcast. You can find us on Facebook.com/CastBeyondTheWall, where you can submit questions and comments, like our statuses, share our statuses, all that great jazz. Talk to us. We like hearing about you guys. Or you can follow us on Twitter at @cast_beyond_GOT. And you can find us on YouTube and subscribe to us there. You'll find you'll catch all these live discussions we're having now. You can catch them not live, or you can hear our fully edited episodes when they come out later in the week. I think you've got a number of great ways to converse and share in the Game of Thrones conversation that we all love so much. Let's go ahead and check to see if we've got anything on the YouTube right now that's come in. Any questions? Well, we do have a comment from a faithful listener called The Tech Guy. I really don't have any questions. This must have been the guy that I promised to strip for. I really don't have any questions at the moment. I've only seen the first season. I'm waiting for the series to conclude and marathon it. I do this because I'm the type of person that gets shows canceled. Oh, man, that's heartbreaking. There was one time I went whole hog into the show called Awake from a few years ago, starring Jason Isaacs.
Yeah, I always wanted to check that out. I never really did.
It's on Netflix. I highly recommend it. Like, it's even though it does cancel.
It's very interesting. I will say that
it is, and that's why I was so behind. Like, it's a very cerebral show. I don't want to get too much into it. Basically, a guy lives in two realities, and when he falls asleep in one, he wakes up in another. In one reality,
I have seen some of that.
His wife walks away from a
car. It was really good.
And he's a police officer, and he has these cases he investigates in both realities, and they like complement each other. Like, he gets clues from one and the other. It's actually really damn good. And I got so head hog behind that show because I thought it was the greatest network show I'd ever seen. And I still maintain it's a really great show. And honestly, it's on Netflix. I would highly recommend go check it out because even though it did get canceled prematurely, the first season ends in a way that
feels.
It feels. I don't want to say feels good, but it fits, and it feels like it could be the end, even though there's definitely more they could do with it. Tons more. It ends in a way that you're like, oh, it's not a cliffhanger. I mean, it is, but it's not. You just have to watch it to find out. So that tech guy, I understand. It is truly a heartbreaking feeling when you go all out on a show that you believe in, and then it gets canceled, like, tragically. Luckily, I don't think Game of Thrones is going to have that problem because it's currently one of the most popular shows on cable TV ever. It's only gotten bigger every season. Ratings have literally gone up. If you go check out the charts, literally every season is totally.
We're like almost quadruple this first episode now. I think we're at huge numbers. But I don't think it's going downhill anytime soon. But yeah, marathoning Game of Thrones. I can't think of a better way to spend my weekend.
I mean, dead serious. That's probably the best way to watch Game of Thrones because otherwise you're like us. Otherwise, you have a week to sit around and podcast about it. And
2 weeks.
To do that.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Nobody wants to do that. Why would you want to do that? So just marathon it up, bro. I appreciate it, bro. Let's use the word bro. Oh, this is bad. This is getting really dark really quickly.
You just lost geek cred right there.
But I'm a nerd, and you called me a dork earlier. You all okay? Anyway, I did get a couple comments. We have had a few people review us on iTunes. That is one other way. Listener, please subscribe to us on iTunes. That's probably the most effective way you can back our podcast is by subscribing and even giving us a review. Even if you don't write a review, just giving us a rating. We would really appreciate that. If you like anything about what we're doing, or even if you hate everything we're doing here, just give us a rating because I think that'll really help us out a lot. But yeah, we did get some really good reviews from a couple of listeners who just really like our chemistry, and we even had a guy from WeGotThisCovered.com who commented and said, hey, he thought we were really on point about last week's episode in Tyrion's trial. So I just want to say thanks to all you listeners out there who are always chiming in and talking, and I hope that we have more in the future. I am not seeing any other questions just yet, but as per usual, we'll take a quick little break here for us so we can, bust open our next beer, go have a potty break, whatever. So we will see you all.
Have a little tinkle.
Have a little tinkle. So we'll be back on in just a moment, listeners, so sit tight.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Okay, I'm back on here, just so you guys know.
Welcome back, Daniel.
Welcome back, everyone. We're all back from our break. We've relieved ourselves and everything.
Let me shut my door again. Actually,
should you get your dog? I guess not. Okay. Well, that was an exciting break, guys. Let me tell you. This might be one of our shorter episodes. We're running under time right now, and we are short of guest host. I was hoping Drew said he'd be free by now, but I don't know. We'll just see what happens.
Yeah, we'll play it by ear.
If he doesn't make it on, he didn't make it on. I guess it's okay. We'll bring him on later.
And I will say also before we kind of move on, we don't have to put this on the podcast or anything.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I didn't get the opportunity to watch it a second time.
Yeah.
So I would like you said, Caleb, when you first got done with it, you were really hyped about it, and so I didn't get to watch it a second time, where I sort of got to remove myself from the hype. So maybe as we're kind of going over, and I can see a little bit more where there's some definitely weak scenes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's cool. And honestly,
some of the scenes, I guess I should reference some of the scenes from this episode are some of my favorites.
Oh, yeah.
2 or 3 are some of my favorites.
No,
maybe not my favorite episode now that I think about it, but.
Well, I understand. Well, especially when you have those moments, especially the way they end. I mean, especially the way they ended it with Lysa, the whole Lysa thing. It's like you're just you're so into it. You're best episode ever.
It's actually interesting because I was telling Rachel this on the way back from Drew's house, is that's actually the way they end the book.
Yeah.
That's actually the last scene in the book is where you see her, Sansa sitting there. And actually, I don't know. We're probably going to talk about this. So I do have a question I want to ask Austin specifically about that scene, because I know when I was reading in the books, I felt like Sansa's life was on the line.
Endangered. Yeah.
And I didn't know if that translated as much into the show. So I wanted to see what you thought about that, but we'll get into that.
We'll save it for later because still you're hitting on some things I really want to talk about with this scene. As much as I really loved it, I do have a lot to say about it, good and bad. And that doesn't mean I didn't love the scene. I really did. I was I was so excited about that scene. There are questions I think that need to be asked from all three of us. So. All right. Thank you, one viewer, for being handy dandy and tuning in. Again, thank you for watching us. We're gonna go ahead and now we're back from a break. We're going to go ahead and talk about Danny Bounk Wow Wow Targaryen over here.
Okay, I'm actually well, I got a lot to say about this. I think.
Jump right into it.
I think I just realized that I had a lot to say about this scene, but
you didn't know it till just now.
Yeah.
You know what? Say it. Go for it. Let's jump right in.
Gosh. Okay. This is my frustrations for Danny have come back a little bit from the scene. I think Jorah points out everything that I would like to say is just you cannot. I've never trusted Dario. I'm totally with Jorah on this. There's no way you can trust Dario. She says she doesn't, but yeah, you can't. Sometimes I don't know. Her faith in him. I just can't. It really frustrates me. Like Jorah points out, this was a guy where was all of a sudden like I don't like what you're doing. I'm gonna kill you and join the other side. What happens when the next beautiful woman comes along, or the next thing that he does? I don't know. And this is just one of those moments where I'm really frustrated with Danny. And I do, as much as I talk bad about her, I do like her and I do root for her. I want her to win. But this is just one of those moments where I'm just like, gosh, Danny.
But I disagree. I don't think she trusts him. I don't. And as is evidenced by at least 2 things. One, that she sent him out against the Marines champion because she doesn't really care if he dies or not. Like, she doesn't really care about him that much. And in this scene, we find out when she's talking with Jorah that she's sending him away. I think mostly because she doesn't trust him. Like, she's sending him away. She's using him as a tool because he is a useful tool. But I don't think it necessarily means she trusts him. She does, however, trust Jorah and ends up, heeding his advice and respecting his judgment, and even makes a point to Jorah to say, hey, make sure Dario knows that you convinced me to change my mind. And kind of showing a little bit of a pecking order to Dario, I think.
That's definitely fair. I just wish that Jorah would would also win because he's totally been friend zoned, and I feel for that guy, man. I just feel for him. Okay.
He's an old man, though. He could be like her grandpa. He's old.
He's not that old, Austin.
He's not that old.
He is older, yes. Okay, but Austin, you're all. I'm gonna call you out on this. I've called you on it before, and it's okay. Don't take this personally. This is Game of Thrones, based on a medieval setting where older dudes with women of her age is totally acceptable.
Hey, that doesn't compute, okay? This is.
I'm just saying. I'm
He's
just saying.
Old and wrinkly, and after what I saw on the on last week tonight, last week's episode of the John Oliver show, that's all I can think about is old man nuts. Okay. Stahl doesn't understand that, but
no,
trust me, it's awful.
You don't want to understand. You don't want to understand. You need to watch the show. Just don't watch episode 3. Okay. Actually, watch episode 3. Don't watch the last 5 minutes.
Oh God. Anyway, yeah, I think I mean the whole friend zone. I don't care. Like Jorah's, if he truly loves Dany, and his expectations is that he's going to hook up with her, I think that's ridiculous. One.
No, you're right. I think that's just more of a personal, like, sort of.
Yeah.
By putting it on her or whatever.
This way. Okay, Austin. I don't think. I think. I don't want you. I don't want us to confuse hopes with expectations. When you expect something to happen, that means like it's gonna, like in your mind, it's gonna happen, and you're right. When you're hoping something's gonna happen, it's not your right, but it's kind of like a best case scenario, right? Mm-hmm. So I definitely don't think Jorah has the expectation of hooking up with Dany, but I think he would love to make some crazy dragon love to her. So.
Oh yeah, he would. Of course he would. I do think this scene, we should point out, this is one of the very, very few scenes where a female character has the power sexually.
Yes. Yeah.
Like I think this scene and then the scene with Gendry and Melisandre are the only ones I can think of off the top of my head. So it's interesting to, in a show or even in a world, I shouldn't say a show, where men always seem to have the power for Dany to be able to really like be in this position of authority in a sexual situation, especially considering what she'd been through with Khal Drogo.
Yeah. Well, although with Khal Drogo, I think, especially when later in the season, it was made pretty obvious that she had the control in that relationship, at least on the sexual end of that.
Towards the end of it, yeah.
Yeah. But honestly, overall thoughts on the scene, I'm somewhere in between you guys again. I get really frustrated with Dany, and I am Team Jorah in this scenario. Because I'm being either a teenage and or middle-aged woman by breaking everything down into 2 teams, because that's just what they do. Oh, Caleb's getting in trouble for that one. God, I promise I don't think that way. Anyway, but no, what I'm saying is I tend to side with Jorah. I think all of his criticisms are very legitimate, and he does end up changing. The saving grace, he calls Dany on her crap, and calls her on her broken thought process. And I totally agree with him on all those, but I will say I do have to.
She listened this time, which was great.
That's exactly what I was getting at. I was about to say I can respect Dany for at least listening and then giving, and then even better than not even better, but aside from just listening, actually gives credit to Jorah, which is something so rare for her, these days.
Yeah, I think she's been humbled by her situation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know, and that's the positive part of Dany. I do like at the beginning I was frustrated, but towards the end of it I was like, oh hey, she's listening to Jorah, all right. So there was that little thing at the end. I do, like you say, Caleb, do really like that she does that at the end, and I do like she puts the little thing, make sure that Dario knows that you changed my mind. I like that part of the scene.
Yeah, and I too. That doesn't mean, and that being said, even though I do give her points for making a really good decision at the end of the scene to take Jorah's advice. I still do give her crap. She still has this really broken thought process, very broken, black and white, arrogant thought process that irritates me. But at least,
young.
Yeah,
she is young. She is young. She is young, and she is naive. For she of that age, it makes sense. And so I give her points for A, admitting, taking advice, and B, I think she's starting to realize this about herself. At least I really hope so. So I'll give her points for that. Again, I'm with Stahl. I love Dany. I think she's a great character, one of the most empowering female characters on the show. But I also am kind of like the comes across as of backlash with her, which is. I just want people to realize that she's not like super Jesus. I mean, she is. She's
I
just
think
still
everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But like you hear, there are a lot of fanboys and fangirls of Danny out there who like she can do no
think
wrong.
she's yeah, exactly, and that's where I come from my criticism too. She's like a goddess to people, and I'm like, no, she has way many flaws, and I get and I'm like, I just want people to realize that. Sometimes when I'm talking to people, I don't feel like they realize that at all. Just like, oh, she's great, she's got dragons.
I just don't talk
she just freed another city. She just freed another city. I'm like, yeah, that is awesome, but guys, you notice all those things she's doing wrong, right? No. What are you talking about? She's the best character ever. You're like, okay, I don't think so, but okay.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to be. I mean, I want to be critical, as I am with all characters, Jamie included earlier this season, Cersei, even Tyrion. Just be critical in saying that these characters are very complex, or and even though she is awesome, and I think Austin, you brought up that she's the one where the quote unquote good guys are winning. I support that. But she is still this very flawed being as it is. So yeah, but I thought this was a very great scene. I thought Danny, we haven't gotten as many scenes with her the last 3 episodes, but every scene we've had with her has been has actually developed her character more.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting to see.
These super exciting scenes that we're used to, but they're very important for her and for her future.
We can hope so. Oh, and not only did she send Dario to Young Kai, she also sent the Lorax with her. So.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about that for a second. Talk about mistakes. You can send away Dario. I think that's fine. That guy, the Lorax, he's bad news. Never trust the Lorax.
I'm sensing some anti-environmentalist Semitism here, Austin. I'm not sure what you're saying.
No, I love the environmentalists, but the dang Lorax. No, he just don't trust him. I think he'll turn on her the second he can. He'll always seek his revenge. For her to send him as an ambassador when the only time she's ever really talked to him, at least that we know of, is when he's complaining that she had just hung his father. I hope she has a bigger plan, and she's not just that stupid.
Again, what I was saying, Austin, she's kind of naive, and she thinks in terms of black and white pretty often, so yeah.
Yeah, if Jorah wanted to bring up anything, he should have brought up how dumb that was. Okay. But he's too worried about Dario because he's too worried about getting in her pants. So.
No, man. I mean, Austin. See, you always make it sexual, and I mean, obviously, Jorah's got some sexual tension there.
But
listen, I really do.
We had this argument about Littlefinger too, and how did that turn out this week?
We'll get there. We're not there yet. But my point being is, and I would take the same stance with Littlefinger, almost, actually. I think that Jorah really does love Dany, not just as a I mean, obviously, he actually loves her and who she is.
Oh, yeah, I would definitely say that, Jorah.
He's devoted. Sure. I mean, he's definitely devoted to her and her cause. Like, it's not just, he's not doing this all against
I know that. I'm just giving him slack because, I don't know. I feel like, I mean, I said it last year. He's one of my least favorite characters. If he was one of the ones among others that I would get rid of. So, I mean, I do have ulterior motives, I guess, for criticizing him.
Well, fair enough. And before we wrap the scene, too, I do want to say one reason I like this scene, and I guess even 2 weeks ago when she talked to Jorah, it does feel like it's coming full circle with the two of them and the relationship they had in Season 1. While she was doing her whole, like, let's liberate Slaver's Bay campaign, that kind of went away. Like, we didn't really see them talk as much. We didn't really see much of anything other than her, like, freeing slaves, which was awesome. But it's really nice to see them come back around, like, as, he is kind of this mentor figure, and she is this very empowering female character that he advises. And so it's really nice to see those moments where there's still that relationship still exists, all the way back from Season 1.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and move on to probably my least favorite scene of this week, actually, which was the scene at Dragonstone between Melisandre and Stannis' wife. I can't remember her name for the life of me.
It doesn't matter.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think she matters at all, and that's why I didn't like the scene very much. First off, if you go back and watch the episode, it seems really oddly placed. Like it. I believe that's in between the scenes with was it Marine, I think, maybe? Or, yeah, Marine. It goes, oh, I don't remember. Anyway, it's wedged between two other scenes that are on the same storyline. Oh, Arya's scenes, that's what it was. And I was like, that's kind of weird. I guess they just felt like they needed to put that there, and I don't feel like it really advances.
It was
super
gratuitous.
I mean, we got to see Melisandre naked, which is not something new, but hey, she's taking a bath. Cool. The only thing I walked away with in the scene is that they're probably gonna sacrifice Stannis' daughter, maybe.
Yeah, I mean that's the big takeaway from the scene. I think is that it was your honestly a really weak version of sexposition that the Game of Thrones become famous for.
I thought we were gonna go into lesbo mode for a second there. I was waiting for the lesbian action to happen for a second.
I did think when she starts talking about Stannis, she's like, "Did you give that to Stannis?" And Melisandre's like, "No, I didn't need that for Stannis."
Yeah, that was kind of funny.
There was a part of me that thought, "Oh, Melisandre's about to get stabbed," and it would have been great. It'd been a great thing.
Oh, that would have been
it didn't happen. As far as the child sacrifice, I feel like that's not going to end up happening.
I'm just saying.
Stannis might even try to do it, but I feel like Davos is going to step in.
Well, I don't think. Actually, I would say that
Stannis
would never do it. Actually, I feel like there might actually be might be the first time where Stannis stands up to Melisandre and says no.
Maybe
because as we saw a couple episodes, that's where he says nobody puts a hand on my daughter and that's the one thing we've seen him go and defend this whole time. So I think that might actually be the one thing where he would stand up against Melisandre and say, "You're not touching my daughter."
Yeah.
He'd light his wife on fire before he light his daughter on fire.
I think so too, honestly. And I think that is a very good point to bring up.
I'm just saying, the Lord of Light demands a lot of people to die.
Yeah, he's a good lord. He's a good lord.
Lord of Light. He just burned people at the stake. Why don't we just burn the actual crazy people?
I'm just saying, we've done the only sacrifice things that we've. Maybe even nothing's really even come of any of the sacrifices, to be honest.
Well, two of the three people are dead now. So
yeah, but that wasn't even the sacrificing of humans. It was just leeches.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just saying that if you just keep throwing everything at the wall, something's gonna stick eventually.
I mean, you're like those crazy prophetic pastors, or you're like Chris Tobin on Lost. Like if you throw enough theories at the wall.
One of them
might.
Or me with Who Killed Joffrey.
Or
every character in the show.
If you name every character possible in the show, then it might stick. Which, by the way, Austin, I hate to point this out, but you know the one character you didn't name, right? You named every effing character but Littlefinger.
I think I mentioned him in passing. But I was he might be involved, but I was more concerned about who there actually put it in the glass.
Yeah, I think he said Littlefinger could be behind it, but that's not important or something like that. He mentioned the name, but was never really considered.
But the true killer has not yet been revealed because we all know it was Cersei. So.
Oh my gosh.
She sent away Pycelle. It had to be Cersei. Okay.
Right. That's right.
Okay.
Today I die.
Never mind. I was going to say that doesn't happen in the books. So I honestly, now looking back on that scene, I don't really understand the importance of that scene. So Austin has a really good point.
It's the worst red herring of all time.
No. It was
the most irresponsible red herring.
No, that's what red herrings are supposed to be, Austin. They're supposed to throw you off the scent. They're supposed to make you think something obvious.
They're usually not like that, though. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, Austin.
Every red herring I've ever read was never like.
Point of red herring is to throw you off the trail. If it doesn't throw you off the trail, it's a really shitty red herring. So you're telling me because it legitimately threw you off the trail, it's a bad red herring?
No one said it's thrown me off the trail yet. It just has not yet been revealed.
Okay. If you pay attention, it's been revealed.
You will feel really dumb, and in a couple seasons when we finally find out that Cersei was behind it all.
That's right, Austin. Just wait until season 7.
Really, Littlefinger
book 7.
Book 7. Cersei and does everything she says.
Book 7. That's going to be the big reveal that actually the person who poisoned Joffrey was Cersei manipulating Littlefinger to thinking it was his idea, because Cersei is smarter than Littlefinger. Yeah.
Yep, it's going to be, last line of Book 7 is, Cersei just says, "I did it," and then it says the end.
Whatever you say, Austin. Whatever you say. Well,
speaking of Littlefinger.
Yeah, I think Littlefinger had some great moments, guys. Let's skip to the Eyrie where Littlefinger reigns king. First off, I just want to point out
that was a good choice of words there.
Exactly.
Reigns.
Oh. But yeah. So I will say though, let's be honest here, and I love this whole section. I mean, I loved every second of this scene at the Eyrie. But guys, it was kind of like a soap opera from hell or something like that. I mean, it's like, I love him. No, I love him. And then like, oh no, it's the weirdest love triangle. It's like it's a love triangle. One of the people doesn't really care.
Well, part of it's like a love triangle with a person that's dead too. Like it's like a.
It's pulling a Lost. It's a love quadrangle. Okay. Okay. So first off, we get to see snow. Winter is coming.
That's right.
And it is the mountains.
Dance's out there. She's singing "Let It Go, Let It Go."
She'd have a smile on her face when it started snowing.
She did. The cold never bothered her.
But no, I actually really thought this Sansa and Robb Aaron scene was interesting. I don't know what to really take of it yet.
Okay, so it's weird. In one sense, it was almost a little touching, and they actually connected a little bit, right?
Well, yeah, but then he just does his whole thing. I didn't really understand. I don't know. I don't really understand what the point of that scene was yet.
Well, he was being a brat, right? So.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I wonder if it's not setting up for the potential relationship we're going to see those two have. But it was weird because they actually kind of connected, and then when it didn't go his way, he just pouted and killed her snow castle. It was really sad.
Yeah, but she kind of got like really upset with him for. I mean, I guess it's understandably, she was creating her home that's been burned or whatever. But she gets really upset with him, just like, you ruined it all, and like sort of she starts it off like it's not even him.
She pulls a Tyrion on him, just slaps him right across the face.
Hey, listen, Sansa has been beaten up enough. It was nice to see her get to slap somebody for just a second.
Okay, yeah,
she learned something from her husband.
That's right. She picked up some great slapping skills from Tyrion. Ooh. But no. Okay, so following the scene with her and Robin, which I do think is interesting, and I really hope they pick up on that in later episodes. Just kind of this. It was still I'm with you. It was a very weird dynamic.
Yeah, it was definitely awkward too. Like just very. I don't know.
But then Littlefinger, of course, comes down the stairs and he's talking.
Okay. Yeah, I have some interesting questions, but go ahead.
Okay.
About this.
Well, I'll say what I thought of the scene. I actually think this is the most vulnerable we've ever seen Littlefinger, ever. Period. Like I think there was. Other than maybe when he was giving his monologue in season 1 when he was in the whorehouse, when he was in one of his houses talking about when he gave his long monologue about why he does what he does, he's not gonna beat them, he's gonna f them. Like that speech, I think that was pretty vulnerable in a different sort of way. But this was probably the most vulnerable we've seen this character. Like I felt like a hint of honest. I felt like a hint of honest emotion when she asked him why he really killed Joffrey, and I never really thought about it before. Like. He really did love Catelyn, and in a sense it was him taking revenge, but I had never thought about it that way.
Nah, that's not... There was such a fast turnaround. This was planned long before Catelyn Stark died. I think. So
yeah,
I think he's playing her. He's playing her like he plays everybody. I don't think he's very sincere.
I think Austin's right. I think this was planned before Catelyn even died, but I think he probably knew about the plans for Catelyn's death. I don't know, whatever. I don't know. We can just speculate on that. But I do think I think I'm kind of between you guys, I guess. I believe there was a tinge of honesty, but at the same time, he was using that honesty to play Sansa. If that makes sense.
No. That's totally fair. It's like Cersei with Oberyn a couple weeks ago,
Yeah, exactly.
I think her emotions were totally legitimate, but she was very strategically playing them.
Right.
I think the same says here, and I don't think it's any accident that Lysa saw Peter or Littlefinger Peter kissing Sansa either. I think that was very intentional.
On Littlefinger's part, you mean?
Very intentional on his part. Yes, I think
Oh,
he knew
okay.
I was gonna. I think he knew she was watching.
Interesting.
Personal thoughts though, but I mean, I don't know. I did feel a tinge. I don't know. I felt like real emotion. Now, whether it was
So, well, then, do you think that there is something like did he legitimately feel something for Sansa then?
ooh, that's the tough question. I feel like
I don't think he legitimately feels anything for anyone.
No,
Well, I mean,
I don't think so. I feel like
I think he
feels
legitimately loved Catelyn.
Catelyn,
Eh.
and I feel like by
I think he loved the
extension-
idea of Catelyn. I don't know that he actually loved her. He's
fair.
a man that's always been driven by, I think, even before Catelyn, trying to become more powerful and trying to gain more things. And she was a means to that, and he loved her, I think, on a surface level, but I just never trust his motivations.
No, okay. That's where I'll straight up disagree with you. I think at least in a very minimal sense, you can say, I think it's fair to say that he legitimately at one point in his life did love Catelyn. Now, obviously they both moved on with their lives, and he might have fallen in love with the idea. I mean, like, he might have fallen in love with who Catelyn was and kind of held on to that for his whole life, right?
Like as a kid, yeah.
Yeah, and that became an idea that he fell in love with. I could totally see that. Now, did he? I think he legitimately really fell in love with her at one point and really did. And I think holding on to that idea of who she was has kind of been his driving force. I don't think he was a power seeker. I think his love for her and then the fight he had with Brandon Stark was the catalyst of who Littlefinger became. And it wasn't just because he loved Catelyn, but it was also because he was humiliated at that battle and everyone laughed at him. And there's been several references.
That was the bigger thing.
I feel like it's both. I really do. And you can kind of see that duality within that character too. That he has his moments where you feel like, especially with Sansa, that he might love her, but at the same time, I think he's very inspired to make everyone who laughed at him pay. Like he never wants to be in a position where anyone could ever laugh at him again. Because when he was so young and vulnerable, that happened. So he's obviously played the game in a way that won't ever happen again. And I think that both of those emotions together and that incident with Brandon has been a catalyst for who that guy is now. But I honestly do think, truly and sincerely, he probably did love her when they were kids. Yeah.
Well, the reason I asked this is because he said to Sansa, I believe, if I'm quoting correctly, he said, "You are more beautiful than she ever was." And I don't know. I just thought that was really strong words coming from him when he talks about Catelyn the way he does. So I don't know if that's just transferred over to her or what. I don't know. I thought that was
manipulating her. He's trying to, in some way, play into her her desires to have like a normal life a little bit. And I think he's trying to flatter her. He's trying to do what he can in order to gain complete control over her.
But I don't know. See, I am pretty heavily convinced that Sansa was turned off by that kiss. So I don't understand how he thinks that would work. I don't know.
I don't know if she was or not.
I guess we haven't really got to see a reaction about it yet. So
yeah. I honestly, guys, I don't know what to make of this. To be quite honest, it's because I can see both sides of this. I really can. Like, on one hand, Peter Baelish is a manipulative son of a bitch. There's just no question about it. But, like, because the history with Catelyn and how he fell in love with her, and I do think he has some sort of soft spot love for Sansa, because even before she was going to marry Tyrion, Peter Baelish was trying to take her out of King's Landing.
Well, I think I will have to agree with you to some extent because of the next scene, where he does put himself in a position where he does not normally put himself in order to protect her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess
was he just protecting his interests? Maybe, but ultimately he's put himself in danger at this point, and he has never done that before.
Right. Well, not such blatant danger anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, let's go ahead and I guess jump to that scene then, because this is also, we've talked very much so about the fact that Littlefinger has never ever gotten his hands dirty. He's always had someone else do that.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff for him. Not in this scene.
Nope.
He is the guy who pushes her out
He's a killer.
The window thing, and he is the one that gets his hands dirty.
Yep.
And we have never seen that from him before. And so I think, I don't know, that was big, I think.
I think it's huge because, again, we haven't seen it side of him before, and I think that and like I said, I think he intentionally kissed Sansa when when Lysa could see him, on one hand. But I also don't think he expected her to react the way she did. So he actually had to put him, like you said, he had to put himself in a position where he had to defend Sansa and throw Lysa out the moon door, which, guys, that was pretty freaking great, I gotta admit.
Yeah, and by the way, I loved the way he delivered that line. Just
yes.
like, I only loved every woman. You see her get comforted. He thinks she's about to talk about her, and he's like, your sister. Just like, oh, that was great.
It was great, and then just chucks her out the freaking Sparta kicks her out the window or the moonroof.
And you're just like, yeah, woohoo,
yeah.
crazy.
Oh my gosh. So Austin, I've got some thoughts on the scene, but before we do that, what are your thoughts on the scene?
I thought Robin was going to go through the moon door first. I'm not convinced that he still won't. But I'm not sure how I feel about it. I don't think he expected Sansa to get in this kind of danger, but he did expect a scenario like this to play out. I think he saw his interests in danger and decided to take control of the situation himself. That's probably going to come back to bite him. As far as him, he's always been a killer. He really has since like the first season.
No, I don't think he is a killer though. That's the thing.
But whether or not he has someone else do it or he does it, he is the person responsible. He's
no, he is the person responsible.
This is the first time where he can get caught.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's the clear distinction, which is why I think this didn't go exactly how he planned. Maybe he's not quite as smart as we thought he was. We'll see how the next episode plays out, but it's there's going to be consequences for this for sure.
Well, everyone's got an Achilles heel, and his is Catelyn Stark, and given the circumstances of how crazy Lysa is, I mean, it even messes with his plans, because she's not remotely reasonable in how she reacts and does things. So, Austin, I agree. Well, this is a position, not only is he in danger because he could have gotten killed or could have gotten Sansa killed, he's in danger now because he can be directly tied to the murder of somebody, which is something that never happened before. And that's why I say, I'm not saying that this doesn't make him a better person. I think it makes him a worse person, in fact. I don't think he's a killer because I don't think he's ever had to get his hands dirty.
On a moral level, he's always been a killer. Now,
what I'm saying though is I don't think that makes him personally a killer. But what I am saying is, what's more dangerous, the guy who does things practically or in theory? Because for him, all these points, all these murders, all of it has been in theory, right? He hasn't had to do any of it, so for him, it's not as real. It's just an idea more than it's an actual action. So that's why I say that doesn't make him any less a killer. It's just a very different type of sociopath that I think is probably more dangerous, honestly. But anyway, so you know what? I have some thoughts on the scene. Stoll, let's get your thoughts on the scene before I go ahead and spat mine out there.
For me, I thought it was a little bit different than I pictured it for the most part. I really liked the way it was delivered. I just remember so well when I read it the moment of, he gets up, he says, I love this woman, blah, 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 and he says, your sister, he pushes her out. But I will say I felt, and I guess this is the question I have for Austin, was when I read it, I very much felt like Sansa was about to die when I was reading it, and I don't know if that translated over onto the screen. I didn't feel like she was as threatened. I felt in this scene when I was watching it. Maybe that's just me. I don't know what you guys thought about that, but
yeah, maybe I've gotten soft this year because no good characters have really died. It's always been bad people so far this season. But I never really felt like she was in danger. The whole time I'm saying that, I'm like, Littlefinger's going to walk in. And they did.
Yeah, and I also felt like Lysa never really intended to. She sort of was just like...
Oh, I think she would have.
Look. Well, no, I think you're right. But in that moment, she was just... From the screen, from the show's point of view, I never felt like she was in danger. Where in the books, I was like, oh my gosh, Sansa's about to die.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that translated over as much. I don't know if that's what maybe they weren't trying to bring that over, which is fine. But I don't know. But I don't know.
I
felt like
I did feel bad. I did feel like she was in danger. I just, for whatever reason, just knew in the back of my head. I said, "Oh, Littlefinger's about to walk in and save her because one, he hates Lysa, and two, Sansa's still an important part of this story." So, it's kind of a silly way to look at it, I guess, but that's how I felt anyway.
Yeah, you're right, and I felt sort of the same way. I never felt like she was in danger in this scene.
Yeah.
But when you're reading the books, though, maybe it's because you see it through from Sansa's perspective. It really does feel like she could die. And honestly, and that's the point I wanted to bring up. This is and again, I hate constantly comparing the two. But this scene actually is the last chapter of Book 3.
Yeah.
In which you see this happen after all the crazy things we're talking about that are going to happen. Some of it has already happened, but it happens after so much death. So much destruction, so much. It's a bloodbath.
Okay, well, maybe I'm like you, Caleb. I don't really necessarily like comparing the book and the show that much either. This is also the moment, though, where the Jon Arryn part is revealed. The Jon Arryn part is actually revealed right here. He talks. That's part of her, like when she says, they'll never love you. I did this for you. I killed Jon Arryn for you. This is this moment where she reveals that.
Right, and that's what I was. I was gonna get to that too. And I guess I think it was. I don't know if it's because I built it up in my mind so much. I think it was actually executed better in the book. I still think it was executed very, very well here. But again, after everything that had happened in the show, and it was the last chapter of the book, I actually felt like Sansa could have died in that moment.
I definitely
the circumstances and the where it was at in the book and everything. Like I seriously, that was very much possibility. Literally no one's safe, and I didn't get that feeling here in the show. And the other thing was, and I wanted to see what Austin thought about this too, was yes, in the books, again, after everything has happened, you get this massive reveal about Jon Arryn that really does bring into question the rest of the series up to that point, which they delivered a couple episodes ago, and I thought it was great still, but I don't know if it was quite as effective as it was like a gut punch. It's like Lysa's going crazy, Sansa's in danger, and then this giant bomb is dropped, and then this epic line, he's like, I've only ever loved one woman, Catelyn, and then throws her out the window, and then that happens, and you're just like, holy F, like it was just after everything that happened, it was another mind-blowing moment that just going on. And I didn't have the same, I didn't walk away with the same impact from the show as I did in the book.
I'll say this. I don't think either of these things happening, even if they happened at the same time, neither of them were that surprising to me. One, the whole Jon Arryn thing, I had assumed it was Littlefinger after I found out he was responsible for Joffrey. Then.
Yeah, but that's the thing about the book, though, is you don't have time to think about those things.
Maybe so, but I'm just saying, from my perspective, it's not. That wasn't surprising. And then him pushing Lysa out the moon door, it was foreshadowed, like so heavily. I was like, yep, it's about to happen. He's gonna push her out, and they did. So none of it was that surprising. It was all. That's how I felt about this show. This episode in general is I felt like the way the show has done things, it's plugged stuff and hinted at things so much that I felt like I figured this whole episode out before it ever happened, which is why it didn't carry the same weight for me that I think it could have. If things were hidden a little bit more, if they weren't hinted at quite as much.
Yeah, not so telegraphed.
It would have been better. Yeah, and it's like, for example, we didn't even talk about this, but like when they revealed that the Mountain was going to kill Tyrion, or I was going to be, sorry, I don't actually know that, so that's not a spoiler or anything. I have no idea. When the Mountain is going to fight for Cersei, that was supposed to be like a bit of a reveal, but he's been like hinted at for like every single episode this entire season. Is like, oh yeah, the Mountain. Oh, the Mountain did this. The Mountain did this. When he hasn't really been talked about at all for like 3 seasons, really. And all of a sudden, he becomes important again. So you know that that's going to be the champion. So this is less about this scene and more about the way the show is kind of, I think, just been using foreshadowing and hinting and things too heavily, and it's really killing some of the bigger moments.
Right. Well, I will say too, not everyone who watches hyper analytical about the show as we are, is one. And two, I did think to some degree Austin's correct though. The show, and I don't think it's necessarily the show's fault because Martin actually hints at things quite a bit in the books too. And we mentioned the red wedding imagery earlier in the episode with the wolf's head on the king at the dead, the feast in the House of the Undying. That is not in the show. And I think I do wonder if there aren't certain things that, like, when you actually see them, you draw more of a connection to. Because if that image of the wolf on the body's head, on the prince's head, would have been shown, I think it would have really made the red wedding less shocking. Versus in the book, and I don't know how to explain this. Like in the books, you just don't it doesn't impact you the same way. And maybe it's the way it's paced and all that, but I never expected. I mean, obviously Littlefinger's at the Eyrie, and obviously crap's going down, but I never thought it was obvious that he was going to throw out. But again, we also didn't have the image of freaking Robin throwing the bird out the window, and maybe when you see it, it kind of creates this more powerful, like, I wonder. Then if you read it, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the visuals I think are really, really powerful, and the way they linger on things like that sometimes, it's like, hey, viewers, this is really important. Pay attention to this right now. And I think they do it a little too much, especially this season.
Well, again, I do want to, kind of go back and say, I think the thing that was more surprising with the Littlefinger and Jon Arryn thing is because, and we actually had talked it up on the podcast a little bit too, as being a mystery. When you're reading that book, your 3 books, you're at the very end of book 3, and honestly, you've forgotten it was even a thing. You're like, 3,000 pages deep, and this is something like all this craziness ensues throughout the whole series, especially the last third of book 3. Like, you don't even remember it being a thing, and then all of a sudden it's like it was like a bomb drop. But the thing is, this being a TV show where we hyper analyze things.
Well, and you don't have like big off seasons to like sit and think about things and like,
right.
Hey, we never revisited that storyline. Whatever happened with that?
Right, and I still think that the Littlefinger poisoning Jon Arryn thing is one of the most shocking reads I've ever read. I just was like, whoa! Just because you'd forgotten about it when you read it, it was like, that makes sense. I mean, it does make sense, but that doesn't mean it was any less surprising.
Yeah, I will say though, like from experience, I've experienced several similar situations where people like me, Caleb, some other friends who have read the book, such as Jessica, who we had on the show, all were really shocked when we read it. And then the people that we were watching it with, when they saw it, were not shocked like we were when we read it.
Yeah, and I gotta go still with that too. I've talked to other people who watched the show, and they were not nearly shocked.
Some of the differences between forcing to read it and thinking through things in your own head, whereas having to see it and then having the time between each week to talk about we just watched 1 hour, but we're sitting here talking for 2.5 hours about something. Yeah. You don't get those moments in the book because you're just reading it and you're like flipping pages, going on to the next thing. So,
well, and there's so many different storylines you're reading through chapter by chapter. It's like, oh, we're hopping from Tyrion to Arya to Ned, whatever, and like it's like you don't.
Right.
The way you think about things isn't the same way.
Right.
So I think this is one of those points where book versus show, you do see some differences, not in how it's presented necessarily. Well, maybe a little bit in presentation, but more in like how we process it and talk about it. Right. And again, I didn't talk about the book a whole lot after I read them because I had no one who had read the books. So it's just kind of a different. And while I think both are equally valid, and I think everyone should try to do both because they're very complementary to each other, I do think there are certain things that might be a little more surprising or shocking in the way we process things. So. Just like in a way, I think Ned's death was more shocking. Actually, a lot more shocking in the show than it was in the books.
Right.
Because Ned's not necessarily he has way more chapters than anyone else in book 1, but he's not
played by Sean Bean in the
exactly. He's not Sean Bean.
There's that, but it's just the fact that like in books, main characters can die, and it's a lot more acceptable than in a TV show.
Yeah, that's probably true. Because there's other issues involved in a TV show like contracts.
Right. It's just not even that. Just like the way we've been programmed by network TV and all these other things. Like there are certain rules that just work.
Well, and I'm saying that's why those rules are in place because of their actors, you know.
Well, no, not even stuff like that. Like, no. Like, okay, for instance, like in the original Lost pilot, they were going to kill Jack off, and that would have been a big shock. Like, I don't think it has to do with contracts. I think it has more to do with, like, there's a certain way we tell TV shows, the stories of television shows. I don't think it has as much to do with contracts, because you can renew a contract for a season, or you can sign someone on for 5 episodes. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, like, the way TV is presented and, like, the expectations everyone has, even in serialized drama, for what can and can't happen, even on shows like Lost that are really shocking and really have lots of plot twists. Breaking Bad is never going to kill Walter White. Lost is never going to kill Jack. I don't think it has to do with contracts. If the showrunners wanted to do it, they could, but it's in fact a matter of, like, are people going to watch it? And that's why Game of Thrones is so groundbreaking, because they did kill Ned. And the books, that's, you know, I mean, I guess it's still a little shocking, but it's definitely not, like...
Yeah, it's not nearly as shocking as it is in the show, I don't think.
So, yeah, I mean, interesting strengths and weaknesses to both genres, and I think it is a good point to talk about.
And I would like to say I am with Caleb on that point, where I don't think one is better than the other. I think that they're both very complementary of each other, and I would actually recommend people who haven't read the books to go and read the books, and people that are reading the books that haven't watched the show to go watch the show. I think they're both very, very complementary of each other. You get things that you don't get from the other that really just support one another, rather than have some of those moments where you're like, oh, I can't believe they changed that character, blah, 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 blah. It's not. It's much more, wow, you don't get to see that you don't get to read about that as much in the book. I'm really glad they put that in the show. And then some of the things from the book, you're like, wow, the show really couldn't go into that. I'm really glad that this is in the book. And you have a much more complimentary type of thing going on there.
Yep, yeah. And again, everyone should go read and watch the books. Well, do you guys have any closing thoughts on the episode before we wrap?
No, I mean, kind of. We've talked about the episode as a whole, kind of throughout the whole thing, I think, and it was good. It was a okay episode in an amazing season. I'm really, 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 really excited to see where we go next. So
yeah, the next 3 episodes are going to be possibly the best episodes we've seen so far.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think what we're going to see next episode is we're going to see an episode 9 like event in episode 8. And in a sense, we almost saw an episode 9 like event in episode 7 this week. I mean, with the throwing the crazy chick out the door, maybe not quite that big, but still a pretty huge moment. So
yeah, I definitely think the next 3 episodes are going to be game changing for the rest of the series.
Oh yeah. And again, I don't think this is the strongest episode of the season, but I will go a step further than Austin and say I think it's a great episode, and I think it's a great episode and an excellent season.
Yeah, as we sort of talked about it, I can see where you guys are coming from, sort of the critique. There are some fairly weak scenes in this, but some of my favorite moments also are from this. So I think it has some of the strongest scenes, but I can see what you guys are saying, where there are some very weak scenes also here too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's definitely it's a mixed batch, that's for sure. But I think if those great scenes weigh more than the bad scenes, which I think they do by far. Then you're still looking at a really great episode. But let's hope next episode kind of pays it off. On the note, we're gonna go ahead and see if we have any additional questions this week. Let's go ahead and check if we have any questions coming in from the YouTube. No questions from the YouTube. So, guys, come on, pick up the game, pick up the slack, ask questions. Well, no other questions in the Q&A. I do want to remind everyone to check us out if they do have questions or comments, to check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/castbeyondthewall, or follow us on Twitter at cast_beyond_GOT. And lastly, I think you should subscribe to us on YouTube or iTunes. Both of those are really effective ways to support the show. Whether you like us or hate us, give us a good review, bad review. That way you can, kind of join the conversation a little bit. Lastly, I just want to say thank you so much to our partners at WeGotThisCovered.com for presenting us and giving us the opportunity to share a network with you guys. All right, well, let's go ahead and prehash next week's episode, The Mountain. Let's go ahead and prehash 2 weeks from 2 weeks from Sunday's episode, The Mountain and the Viper. Guys, those bastards. Those bastards. They're making us wait 2 weeks on the eve of one of the biggest freaking episodes the show's ever had. How dare they? How dare they?
They, I think knowing that they were going to skip a week, or like delay it a week, I guess, they put some really, really fun stuff in the preview. I'm really, really excited. They would get to see the whole Oberon twirling this double-sided spear around like Darth Maul. It's so good.
Yeah,
so
it's gonna be
good.
pretty sweet, yes.
And we get to see Ramsay Bolton come back with Reek. Good to see where that's
Reek,
going to go now.
Yeah, Reek is pretending to be
Someone he's not.
Pretend to be Theon Greyjoy. Man, guys, I really want Theon to not have the worst life ever. I'm sorry. I mean, he might be a terrible person, maybe, but come on, guys. I mean, just cut the guy some slack a little bit.
No Greyjoy is deserving of this.
Oh my gosh! Well, of course not. Yeah, and then of course we really those are the two big teasers. We get to see more Theon, epic fight that we already hyped way earlier in the episode that we cannot wait to talk about. Was there anything else I missed in the little teaser for next week? Oh, I guess yeah. The wildlings are getting closer to the wall.
Yeah, they've been kind of quiet with them since the Thins showed up, and then they had a little thing with that one village and the potato farmer. But
yeah, they had that epically like, holy crap, I'm scared of these guys with the potato farm, and then that was it.
We haven't seen much of them, so it'll be good to check back in with them.
Yeah, and all I'm saying is the 9th episode's called The Watchers on the Wall, so we might say more about them later. So yeah, I am absolutely stoked, guys. This is one of the episodes I've been hyping since this season started. I knew that this was going to be a moment, and it's one I just seriously get chills talking about the Mountain versus the Viper. And I think it's something that fans are going to love. And, man, all I got to say to the showrunners, D.B. Weiss and whatever his name is, I can't remember their names all of a sudden, I'm sorry. Dan Weiss and D.B. I can't remember. Sorry. The creators and co-runners of the show is, please don't F this up. But I don't think you will. I've got great faith in you.
They're not. I don't think they're going to mess it up.
They haven't done a bad job yet, so.
That's true. Well, guys, I got bad news for you. As I mentioned, we don't have an episode next week. Shame of Game of Thrones because of Memorial Day. Man, I just gotta say they'll sacrifice. They'll debut on Easter. They'll play through Mother's Day. They'll play through Father's Day. But you give them Memorial Day, they take a week off. So yeah, no new episode next week. But no worries, we will have a show. I don't know what the show will compose of yet, but it'll be a lot of fun, and I think you should all tune in. We'll do kind of a bonus episode. We'll probably we might talk a little bit about things that have happened so far. We'll probably focus on fan theories and maybe some fun quiz show questions. But I really hope you can all tune in to our bonus episode. We kind of hype the last 3 episodes that I think are going to be 3 of the best episodes the show's ever seen. So make sure to tune in next week. We'll begin doing a live broadcast and then publishing the episode a little later in the week. But make sure not to miss it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Well, guys, I think that about does it for now. We're going to go ahead and wrap the show, and we'll be back to talk about The Mountain and the Viper with guest host Mark Pickens. Can't wait to talk about this one.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
All right. Sorry, okay, we don't have any live viewers anyway, so adios, amigos, for watching on YouTube later.